Most epic audiobook. The Dance of Love. by Xana Ninja Cat. What if you could dive into a world where love, magic, and adventure await at every turn? Start the chapter. Chapter 1. Location: northwest of Vale, coastal town, Orleans. High upon the hill overlooking Orleans stood the grand estate of the Ark family. If one listened closely, the rhythmic sound of wood striking against flesh could be heard, followed by the labored panting of exertion. Upon closer inspection, the source revealed itself to be young John Ark, the only son of the prestigious Ark bloodline. John, only 7 years of age, stood wielding his wooden sword against the towering 6 feet 5 inches figure of his father, Miles Ark, renowned as the Sword of Orleans. John gripped his sword with both hands, knuckles white, his body littered with scratches and more than just a few bruises. He stood trembling but determined, facing down the immovable figure of his father with all the courage his small frame could muster. Miles gazed at his son with disappointment and weary resignation. His expression betrayed the emotions he didn't voice. Frustration, concern, and worry all at once. "John!" Miles called out, his voice heavy, laced with disappointment. "Let's stop the training for today." "No, Dad. I can still train some more," John pleaded, brows furrowed in frustration as he met the expression on his father's face. A look he had become all too familiar with over the years. "No, John. It's enough for today." Miles sighed, eyeing his son's unwavering will to continue what had become fruitless effort. "Just one more time, Dad, please," John begged, desperation creeping into his voice, his tone striving to reclaim some measure of his father's approval. Miles exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck before giving in. "Just one more, John. Only one. After that, you're going to get patched up by your mother." He winced slightly, anticipating Luna's scolding later for being too harsh on their son. "Thanks, Dad." John beamed with gratitude, his smile brightening his bruised features for just one moment. He fell into what could generously be called his stance. Sloppy, unbalanced, and tense. He gripped his sword too tightly, his legs too close together, making him unstable and vulnerable to even the slightest gust of wind. Miles observed him critically, his heart heavy. No matter how many corrections he gave, the boy's form never improved. "John, my son, midline horizontal ellipsis. What do I do with you? Just earlier I corrected this exact stance. I even guided your limbs myself. It's been the same for 3 years now." Miles didn't bother lifting his wooden sword into guard. He simply held it loosely at his side, choosing observation over engagement this time. John pushed forward with his right foot, launching at his father with all the strength he could muster, the sword raised overhead in one final attack. The strike was clumsy and wild, and Miles stopped it with ease using his own weapon, barely lifting it into position. John's grip slipped. The wooden sword launched into the air, spinning briefly before crashing down on his own head with brutal irony. He crumpled to the ground, and Miles let out another long, exhausted sigh. "That's enough. Go inside and let your mother look at your wounds, John," he said, his tone leaving no room to argue. John's eyes welled up with unshed tears. He turned away, ashamed and heartbroken, unwilling to meet his father's gaze. He simply nodded and walked back toward the house, shoulders slumped under the weight of unvoiced defeat and disappointment. Miles watched his son's retreating form in silence. He bent down, picked up John's discarded sword, and walked to the weapon rack where he began to put things back into their place. From behind one of the nearby trees, his second oldest daughter stepped out into the open. "He hasn't improved at all, Father." Artoria Ark, 11, said calmly, her arms folded across her chest. "It's like he's regressed compared to when he started training." "I know, Artoria. I've trained him for 3 years now, and there's been no progress." "If anything, he's gotten worse," Miles replied quietly, setting the wooden blade in place. I've decided to stop training him from now on. Midline horizontal ellipsis. I'll focus on Jean. John's just not cut out to be huntsman. Artoria's eyes widened slightly, taking in the full weight of her father's declaration. She processed it for several seconds before speaking again. He's going to hate you for that, you know, she warned quietly, her voice devoid of emotion but edged with worry. I know. Miles ran his hand down his face wearily. I'd rather he hate me than die charging into Grim, chasing some impossible dream to be like me. I can't let my son die because I didn't stop him when I should have. Artoria said nothing as she turned to walk back into the house, but her silence spoke volumes. She understood her brother far more than he ever realized. And she feared the coming storm when that decision was delivered. Inside the Ark home, John climbed the steps, his mother Luna Ark, known far and wide as the Saint of Orleans, catching sight of him as he dragged his feet past the kitchen doorway. John! She called out, pausing him mid-step near the stairs. He blinked rapidly to clear the tears from his eyes before turning around, attempting to mask the sadness in his voice. Why yeah, Mom? Do you need anything? Luna approached him, her composure kind but full of concern. She crouched before him, placing one gentle hand on his bruised cheek. Her palm emitted soft white light, healing scratches and bruises with familiar warmth and practiced grace. Did you finish training for today, John? Did you do well? She asked with hopeful sweetness that only made his heart ache more. Why yeah, midline horizontal ellipsis. I finished midline horizontal ellipsis, he replied, voice barely above whisper, eyes fixed on the floor in shame. He couldn't bear to look at her, not after failing again. Luna sighed softly, pressing her lips to his brow with affection. It's all right, John. You did your best today. And that's enough, she said gently, stroking his cheek with motherly devotion. John wanted to argue. He wanted to shout that his best wasn't enough and that continuing to fail might get someone killed one day. He wanted to scream. But he couldn't hurt her with those truths now, not when she was trying to protect him in her own way. Yes, Mom. Midline horizontal ellipsis, her eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. How about you go dance with Saffron? She's upstairs in her room right now, she offered, knowing how much joy the art of dance brought to her son's heart. John's posture eased immediately, face lighting up with the first genuine smile of the day. That sounds great, Mom, he chirped with enthusiasm before darting off toward the upper floor. Artoria passed by, watching her brother sprint up the stairs, his usual cheer returning to his features like sunlight after rain. She turned toward her mother with the faintest of smiles. He's going to dance with Saffron again, isn't he? Yes, he is. Luna turned back to the stairs with unmistakable fondness in her gaze, then sighed aloud. How I wish he didn't dream of becoming huntsman. Midline horizontal ellipsis. Artoria's expression darkened slightly, the weight of truth pressing into her chest. He's too loving to ignore the grim, Mom. Midline horizontal ellipsis. He's too kind to stand by and let others get hurt. He'd rather get wounded himself than see another person suffer. Luna nodded slowly, her entire body tensing with worry. He's so full of love, Artoria. Midline horizontal ellipsis. I can't help but worry. I know, Mom. Artoria's voice softened. Maybe he'll find another way to help one day. Midline horizontal ellipsis. Maybe he'll become. I don't know, maybe even try to become like Saffron. A doctor, maybe. She could help guide him. Maybe, Luna said, her tone subdued. Saffron is only 13, though. She has her own journey ahead of her. She can help him plan. But eventually, she'll be too busy to protect him from the world. While the two women talked, John tiptoed down the hall. He first peeked into the room of his 2-year-old twin siblings, Blancheur and Noir Arc, checking to see if they were still asleep. He spotted them curled under their shared blanket on the floor and smiled softly. He stepped inside, carefully draped the blanket over them, and kissed each of their small brows before backing out and closing the door gently behind him. As John walked farther down the hall, he was drawn to the sound of wooden swords clashing coming from outside. He approached the nearest window and peered out to see 5-year-old Jean, his younger sister, sparring fluidly against their father beneath the amber afternoon sun. He stared quietly, watching the way his father's stern gaze melted into pride and affection as he trained Jean. That gaze. A look John hadn't seen directed at himself in years. Pierced his heart more than any of the bruises from earlier. He turned away, trying not to cry again, and continued on to the room of Mordred, their 9-year-old sibling. He winced as loud, rebellious rock music blared through the cracked door. Opening it carefully, he spotted her admiring the large sword their father had gifted her upon her acceptance into combat school. It was far too large for her, but she clutched it with fierce pride in her eyes. John smiled at the sight, then quietly shut the door before she could notice and give him another rough noogie for snooping. Finally, he approached Saffron's room and eased the door open, ready to make the excuse of checking on her. She spotted him first. John midline horizontal ellipsis. What brings you here? She asked, rising from her desk, eyes soft as always. And nothing midline horizontal ellipsis. I was just checking up on you. John fumbled his words, trying not to sound like he'd been hoping for more than just that. Saffron tilted her head, sensing his usual shift in mood. Did you finish your training for today? Why, midline horizontal ellipsis. I did. He looked down again, unable to face even her, afraid of seeing pity or disappointment in her eyes. The floor had never looked so worthy of study before. Saffron smiled gently. Do you want to dance, John? His eyes lit up, radiant with joy. Why, yeah. I want to. All right. She chuckled, walking toward her scroll to pick the music. What kind of music do you want today? Classical again? Or maybe salsa? Classical would be great, Saf. Classical it is, then, she replied, cueing one of their favorite tracks as John took her hand, already beaming with anticipation. John then took Saffron's hand in his and started to waltz around the room with her. While Saffron held her brother's hands, she couldn't help but think of how graceful John's movements were as they waltzed around the room. You've gotten better at this, John, she complimented him before placing her hand on his shoulder. With her other hand, she held his left, while his other rested gently on her waist. I'm only this good because you danced with me, Saf, he said with his usual bright smile before spinning her with ease. Saffron looked at her brother's joyful, loving expression, and she herself smiled. She crouched slightly to compensate for their height difference and spun gracefully, matching his pace. They continued to waltz through the music for the next 20 or so minutes. Eventually, Saffron was exhausted, while her younger brother was still full of energy, his face glowing with happiness. She couldn't help but look at him with affection, feeling proud that she had managed to help him forget his troubles, even if just for now. She knew how hard his training had been lately. How discouraging it must feel, day after day. John midline horizontal ellipsis. Can we just take break for now? I'm kind of tired, she said, wiping sweat from her brow, while John remained beaming with energy. It's okay, Saf. I don't want to take up any more of your time, John said as he walked up to her and hugged her tightly. As she hugged him back, she reassured him, it's okay, John. I can study later. No, it's okay. Let's stop for today. John felt slightly disappointed that their dance had ended so quickly, but he truly didn't want to take up any more of her time when he knew she had things to do. Saffron let out another tired sigh, touched once more by how thoughtful her little brother was. Well, if you say so, John midline horizontal ellipsis. Do you want to stay here while I study? She asked, knowing he needed distraction from his training and everything that had him down lately. No, it's okay, Saf. I'm going to help Mom cook lunch, John said, smiling brightly, his face filled with love before he walked out of her room. Saffron watched him leave, her gaze soft and full of concern. She wished with all her heart that she could help John achieve his dream, but she herself couldn't fight, and her own dream was to become someone who could heal. Someone who could help in other ways. She wanted to be someone who saved lives as well, not with weapons, but with care and medicine. A doctor. As the day passed, night took over, and the house fell into slumber beneath the calm blanket of midnight. Everyone was fast asleep except for one John Ark, who had woken with the sudden need to use the toilet. He shuffled back down the dim hallway after finishing, rubbing his tired eyes and ready to return to bed when he heard the sound of voices. Heated, tense, and rising steadily from behind one of the nearby doors. Curious, and with growing unease churning in his chest, John tiptoed toward the noise. It led him to his parents' bedroom. As he got closer, he recognized their voices. He pressed his ear gently against the door, trying to listen more clearly without making any sound himself. "What do you mean by stopping his training, Miles?" His mother's voice snapped, angrier than John had ever heard before. His stomach sank instantly. He knew they were talking about him. Who else could it be? "I'm stopping his training for his own good, Luna," his father replied, his tone trying to soothe but failing to calm the storm. "You're stopping his dreams." Luna's voice rose again, furious and defensive. "I know I'm stopping his dreams, Luna midline horizontal ellipsis, but it's for the best," Miles insisted, strain clear in every word. "You are destroying his dreams, Miles Ark." His mother shouted, and John flinched where he stood, shaken by the ferocity. He had never heard his soft, gentle mother scream like that before. The sound made his heart pound against his ribs like it wanted to escape the hurt inside his chest. "I know, okay? I know." Miles shouted back just as loudly, frustration spilling over like boiling water. "But I just don't want him to die some foolish death because of his stupid dream, Luna." John stepped back slightly, startled by the force in his father's voice, his wide blue eyes stinging with emotion he couldn't explain. He wanted to run away. But he couldn't. He needed to hear more, even though it hurt with every word. There was silence for several seconds. Then his father spoke again, voice quieter this time, not soft, but full of exhaustion. "I just don't want him to die, Luna midline horizontal ellipsis. I can't bear the thought of burying my son because I let him continue chasing this dream of becoming huntsman. I've trained him for 3 years midline horizontal ellipsis and he's gotten worse, not better. He hasn't improved at all midline horizontal ellipsis, not in skill, not in form, not in instinct midline horizontal ellipsis. He's just midline horizontal ellipsis, not getting there." He sounded tired. So tired. And so disappointed that John could feel it like cold water soaking through his clothes and straight into his bones. "I'm planning to tell him the news at breakfast midline horizontal ellipsis. I'm going to focus on training Jean. Even with only 6 months of training, she's already leaps and bounds ahead of John." John could hear the pride in his father's voice when he mentioned Jean midline horizontal ellipsis, but what crushed him was the sorrow and disappointment layered behind every mention of his own name. He could hear the truth in it, no matter how hard he tried not to believe it. No matter how much he prayed for his father's approval, he hadn't earned it. He was midline horizontal ellipsis failing. His heart clenched painfully inside his chest, and though his eyes burned, John didn't shed his tears just yet. Not there. He stepped away from the door as silently as he could, afraid that even one sob might be overheard. He crept back to his room and climbed into bed, curling beneath his blanket as the storm inside his heart broke free in the quiet of the night. Alone in the darkness, with only shattered dreams for company, John Ark cried himself to sleep. Chapter 2. John woke up, his eyelids still puffy and heavy from the tears he had shed the night before. His body felt sluggish, weighed down by the exhaustion that only comes after crying oneself to sleep. The sunlight poured in through the window, bright and cheerful, but John didn't feel any warmth from it today. Instead, He felt the creeping dread wrapping around his heart like vines, tightening with each breath. He knew what was going to happen at breakfast. And that knowledge alone made getting up even harder than usual. He pushed himself out of bed and shuffled toward the mirror. What greeted him was not unexpected. His blonde hair was wild and tangled, sticking in every direction, and his eyes were swollen and rimmed with red. He sighed deeply, rubbing at them in hopes of pushing the puffiness away, but the irritation only made them worse. Frowning, he turned from the mirror and made his way into the bathroom to wash up. As he brushed his teeth, his thoughts drifted again to what he had overheard the night before. His father's voice, so full of pain and resolution, saying it was time to end his training. The thought of having everything he had worked for taken away so simply, so calmly, made his eyes sting with tears again. He blinked them away quickly, trying to keep it together. He didn't want his family to see him cry again. After washing his face, John stared at the reflection in the mirror. He looked slightly less disheveled, though the weight on his chest remained. He reached up, ruffled his bedhead into some semblance of order and let out another half-hearted chuckle at his own appearance. "Come on, John," he whispered to himself, "you can't be more of disappointment than you already are. Don't let them be more disappointed in you." Midline horizontal ellipsis. 10 minutes later, he made his way downstairs. The smell of breakfast filled the air, but it didn't bring the comfort it usually did. He spotted his mother at the stove, flipping pancakes while cooking bacon and eggs. She turned slightly when she heard him approach, and John's eyes immediately caught the redness surrounding hers. She'd been crying too. That realization made guilt well up inside him again, but he pushed it down and walked up to her with as much cheer as he could muster. "Let me help with breakfast, Mom," John said, moving to stand beside her at the counter. Luna turned to look at him. Her expression soft but clearly saddened. But she nodded and handed him the bowl. "All right, sweetie. You can help me mix the pancake batter while I finish the bacon and eggs." As he stirred, John's mind wandered again. He mixed the ingredients absent-mindedly, the wooden spoon moving through the batter without much thought. Luna glanced at her son out of the corner of her eye and sighed quietly. He was so good at helping around the house. Diligent, thoughtful, precise. Why couldn't those same skills translate to combat? 20 minutes passed, and soon John was setting plates on the table just as the rest of the family began making their way downstairs. Saffron carried the twins, Blanchard and Noir, who were still half asleep, their heads resting on her shoulders. Artoria appeared next, as prim as ever with her aristocratic aura midline horizontal ellipsis, but her hair was completely wild, and there was even dried drool on her cheek. John couldn't help but chuckle softly at the sight. Mordred, surprisingly, looked the cleanest among them, her messy ponytail the only sign she'd just rolled out of bed. She wore her usual combo of shorts and shirt. Jean followed behind in her cute pastel pajamas, tilting her head curiously as she eyed the food already placed on the table. Miles entered last, dressed in his simple shirt and pants. He gave John the briefest glance, his eyes full of sadness, and said nothing as he sat down slowly at the table. They all began to eat. John sat quietly, waiting, dreading every bite because it brought him closer to the inevitable. He tried to focus on the joy his cooking brought instead. On the way, Mordred lit up when she took her first bite. "John, you made the pancakes, right?" Mordred asked excitedly, her mouth already full and her appetite in full force. John smiled softly. "Yes, Mordred. I made the pancakes." "Are they good?" "They're the best pancakes I've ever had, John. You should make them every day," Mordred declared between bites. "Swallow before speaking, Mordred," Artoria said pointedly before turning to John with calm dignity. "John, the pancakes are delicious." "Artoria." Mordred scowled, attempting to reach across the table for another pancake, but Artoria was quicker, snatching it before her little sister could. She was already on her third helping, which earned her several annoyed glances from around the table. John watched it all. The laughter, the small battles for food, the joyful chaos of his family. And smiled to himself. It was beautiful. It was everything he loved most in the world. And yet, beneath it all, he could feel the tension growing. He could see it in his father's grim silence. The moment was coming. Miles cleared his throat and everyone turned to look at him. John felt his stomach twist. "John," Miles said, his voice subdued, "there's midline horizontal ellipsis, there's someone I need to tell you." Everyone quieted instantly, sensing the gravity of the moment. The air stilled as they all looked at John. John struggled to keep his voice steady. "What is it, Dad?" There was another delay. Tension stretching seconds into hours. Before Miles finally spoke the words that changed everything. "I midline horizontal ellipsis, I am stopping your training, John." For several seconds, nobody could speak. Then chaos broke across the table like shattered glass. "You can't do that." "What midline horizontal ellipsis, Dad? What are you saying?" "Dad, midline horizontal ellipsis, please tell us you're joking." Everyone spoke over each other, anger and disbelief filling the air, but Miles kept his gaze fixed on his son, waiting for John's reaction. John stared down at his plate, hands clenched tightly in his lap. "Oh, midline horizontal ellipsis, okay, Dad, midline horizontal ellipsis, I midline horizontal ellipsis, I understand." Even though he had tried to prepare for this, hearing the words spoken aloud made tears sting his eyes again. He kept his head down, refusing to let them fall. "Not here, not in front of everyone." Saffron watched him carefully, heartbreaking at the sight of her little brother trying to stay strong. She turned her gaze sharply toward her father before looking back at John again. "John, midline horizontal ellipsis, are you sure you want to go along with this?" she asked softly, barely able to keep her emotions in check. "Are you really okay?" John took one shaky breath, then another before answering. "It's okay, midline horizontal ellipsis, I midline horizontal ellipsis, I understand why he's stopping it." "I midline horizontal ellipsis," his voice cracked before he could finish the sentence. He quickly stood up, pushing the chair back with sudden force, and ran out the front door without another word. "John!" Saffron called, about to follow, but Miles raised his hand and shook his head slightly. "Don't," he said quietly. "He needs space right now. He needs to calm down." His daughters all turned toward him sharply, glares full of anger and disbelief. "You midline horizontal ellipsis, you midline horizontal ellipsis." Mordred's face was bright red from fury, her hands clenched in fists. "How could you destroy his dream like that?" Saffron opened her mouth to speak, but closed it again. She looked down, composed herself, and finally turned toward her mother, who had remained silent this whole time. "Mom, midline horizontal ellipsis, did you know?" Luna didn't answer right away. She closed her eyes and let out the slowest, most tired sigh in recent memory. "Yes. Your father told me last night, midline horizontal ellipsis." Saffron's face fell, disappointment clear in her expression as she turned her gaze back to her father. "You can't do this, Dad, midline horizontal ellipsis, being huntsman has always been his dream," she said quietly, doing her best to control the storm building inside her. Artoria fixed her father with frustrated eyes, equally bothered by the decision and by how bluntly he had announced it. Jean looked down at her lap, guilt shadowing her features, while the twins sat wordlessly, too young to understand the full weight of what had just happened but nonetheless sensing the grief in the room. "I know it's his dream," Miles said at last, his voice low and solemn. "Believe me, I know midline horizontal ellipsis, but he's simply not suited for it. In the 3 years I've trained him, day in and day out, he's never shown any progress. None. And if he had shown even the smallest bit of promise, I would have continued. Gladly." He looked down at his own hands, remembering every moment of that training as though it had been carved into stone. "Whenever I see him hold the sword, or any weapon, He looks trapped. Confined. As if the very act of wielding it is foreign to him, like it's not where he truly belongs. None of his daughters said anything for several long moments after that. Even if they wanted to argue, even if they wanted to protect John's dream, they couldn't bring themselves to refute the truth in their father's words. But Dad, midline horizontal ellipsis, can you at least give him one more chance? Please? Saffron pleaded, her voice trembling slightly as she looked her father in the eye, desperate for him to reconsider. Just one more. Miles sighed deeply, the weight of his thoughts visible in the set of his shoulders. Saffron midline horizontal ellipsis, I know how much you love your brother. Maybe even more than the rest of us combined. But I've already tried everything I could. His voice was heavy, quiet with despair. I've taught him countless stances, countless ways to fight with the sword and other weapons midline horizontal ellipsis, but it's always the same. He looks midline horizontal ellipsis confined. Like his very body is shackled. Like invisible chains are pulling him down. Saffron watched the guilt settle over her father's face like dust on stone. She wanted to argue. Wanted to scream that it wasn't true. But in the deepest parts of her heart, even she had seen the truth of it. John's movements had always lacked fluidity when training. He always looked like he was struggling to be someone he wasn't. Before she could find words to protest, Miles continued quietly, his voice barely above whisper, I midline horizontal ellipsis, I don't want to send my son to his death midline horizontal ellipsis. Even Mordred, who sat with clenched fists and flaring nostrils, quieted at that. The rage still simmered in her blood, but those words managed to still her just enough to listen. For now. Luna finally spoke, her voice tender yet filled with sorrow. Your father talked to me last night about this midline horizontal ellipsis, and as much as I hate taking John's dream away from him midline horizontal ellipsis, I don't want him to die either. But Mom. You can't just do that. Mordred snapped, her voice breaking as she turned toward Artoria for support. Right, Artoria? Silence followed. Artoria didn't respond. She sat still, her eyes dropped to the table, her lips pressed into nothing but quiet resignation. Artoria midline horizontal ellipsis, right? Mordred whispered again, but her voice revealed the flicker of dread forming in her chest. That flicker became fire. Artoria midline horizontal ellipsis, did you know? Artoria kept her eyes low as she answered calmly, preparing herself for the storm that was coming. Yes, midline horizontal ellipsis, I did. They told me yesterday. Without hesitation, Mordred surged across the table, her expression twisted in rage. She swung her fist with all the fury in her heart. Only for her father to catch her mid-motion, trapping her in his arms before the punch connected. Let go of me, you bastard. Let me beat that bitch. Mordred shouted, thrashing violently in Miles' grip. Her fury erupted like wildfire as Luna rushed over to try and calm her, the room teetering on the edge of chaos once more. Artoria didn't move from her seat. She met her sister's rage with guilt, not fear. She understood. She would have done the same in her place. You can't do that, Artoria. You can't do that to John. Miles held Mordred tighter, afraid to let go. Even more afraid of what this decision had caused between his daughters. He felt the weight of his choice like iron chains around his own heart. He made this choice to protect his son midline horizontal ellipsis, and in doing so, risked breaking the rest of the family apart. Meanwhile, far from the heated argument and shaking table, John ran deeper into the forest beyond the edge of town. He didn't know where his feet were carrying him, just that he had to get away. He cried and cried, the tears burning his cheeks as they fell, blurring his vision until the trees around him became smeared shapes of color and shadow. He cursed himself with every step. Cursed his weakness. Cursed his failure. Cursed the lack of courage in his heart that never seemed to shine where it mattered most. His breath caught in his throat, and he stumbled to stop, gasping for air, shoulders heaving. Who would want to train someone like me, anyway? He looked around and realized he had run too far. The forest had closed around him, unfamiliar and vast, and he didn't know which way led back home. Wiping his eyes, he began to walk in what he hoped was the right direction. But as he moved, he caught the soft sound of flowing water not too far away. Guided by instinct, he followed the sound until he arrived at the riverbank. And froze in awe. It was beautiful. The wind danced through the treetops, carrying with it the crisp scent of leaves and earth. The water glittered with golden sunlight, rippling in soft waves across the rocks. Amber leaves floated down like kisses on the surface of the river, drifting lazily along the current. Birds chirped overhead in tunes that only they understood, melodies blending seamlessly into the breath of the woods around him. John stood there, heart quiet, thoughts still. And then midline horizontal ellipsis he moved. At first, it was barely noticeable. Just the sway of his shoulders to the birdsong. Then the tilt of his head to follow the rhythm of the wind. Before he even realized it, his feet began to glide across the grass. He picked up the nearest fallen branch, light and smooth like his training sword. And danced. He danced to the sound of the water flowing beside him. He danced to the whisper of the wind threading through his hair. He danced to the gentle patter of leaves falling like soft rain. He danced to the songs of birds echoing from above. He danced to the rhythm of nature and the steady beating of his own heart. He danced with all the passion he had, and all the pain he couldn't say aloud. Time slipped away unnoticed. He lost himself in motion, each movement more alive than any swing he'd ever taken during practice. When he finally stopped, panting and blinking slowly, he realized the sun had risen high in the sky. Noon already. He looked down at the stick still clutched in his right hand midline horizontal ellipsis and smiled softly to himself with newfound clarity burning behind his eyes. He had danced for more than 5 hours straight. And in those 5 hours, he had never felt more alive. Not once in 3 years of swordplay had his body felt like this. Fluid. Free. Limitless. He stared at the stick like it was both sword and partner. I midline horizontal ellipsis I cannot fight midline horizontal ellipsis but I can dance, he whispered to the trees and river. That's the only thing I'm good at midline horizontal ellipsis, his voice strengthened as he stood straighter, his eyes shining with resolve. I'll dance instead of fighting. I'll dance to the sound of swords clashing midline horizontal ellipsis I'll dance to the thunder of guns firing midline horizontal ellipsis I'll dance through the chaos of the battlefield midline horizontal ellipsis I'll dance to the rhythm of my heartbeat. He placed the stick across his shoulders as if it were the blade he would one day wield again. Not with brute force, but with purpose and grace. I'll dance to the sound of my love. He closed his eyes, letting the wind sweep through his hair once more, and smiled. The Dance of Love. Chapter 3 It had been 2 years since the day Miles' arc ended John's training. In the time that followed, John had thrown himself entirely into mastering the one thing no one could take from him, dancing. Combat, at its core, was rhythm, movement, and instinct. And John had been refining those elements with relentless focus, all channeled through his own unique expression. The art of sword dancing. Deep in the forest outside of Orleans, far from the eyes of anyone who might judge or pity him, the sound of wooden sword swings echoed softly through the trees. The gliding of bare feet against the forest floor, combined with the gentle murmur of the nearby river, created the quiet symphony of his daily training. Anyone who happened upon the source of those sounds would find him there. Graceful, precise, and unrelenting. John Arc, now 9 years old, danced as if the world depended on it. His movements were fluid and seamless, twirling and weaving through falling leaves as though they, too, had roles to play in his performance. His wooden sword moved like it was part of his body, striking one leaf after another mid-air, never allowing them to touch his skin, every thrust and slash guided by both instinct and choreography. Each leaf he stabbed floated to the ground after meeting its mark, accumulating at his feet until he finally stopped, breathing lightly but steadily. He looked at his sword, smiling faintly at the sight of over 24 leaves pierced along its length. With one swift flick, he sent them scattering back to the earth. Then, with practiced grace, he spun the wooden blade in his hand, performed one final flourish, and resumed his dance as if he had never stopped at all. This was John Arc now. Graceful, determined, and alone in his pursuit. But no longer lost. As he danced to the rhythm of his heartbeat, his thoughts drifted to the newest member of the Arc family, Olivia Arc. She had been born just 2 months ago, the bright-eyed baby girl with her mother's soft green eyes and the early traces of their family's signature golden hair. Today, the entire Arc family was heading out for supplies and leisure. Nothing particularly special, just time together at the mall, but even the smallest things had meaning after everything that happened 2 years ago. Since Miles had ended John's training, the aftershocks had never truly left the family. The guilt, disappointment, resentment. It lingered, unspoken but ever-present. Everyone in the family knew that Miles had distanced himself from John since that day, not out of dislike, but out of guilt, midline horizontal ellipsis, and perhaps fear. Mordred, on the other hand, wore her rage proudly. Her animosity toward both her father and Artoria had only grown in the past 2 years, and though Miles had tried his best to reconcile with her, she met every effort with that same rebellious fire he had once admired in her training. Now it only made his apologies harder to bear. Artoria, meanwhile, had tried her best to pick up the pieces in her own way. She rarely expressed emotion, but even she had become visibly frustrated in her attempts to bond with John again. She often wandered the house searching for him, either to talk or simply spend time together. Even if she didn't say it out loud, everyone could see that she was trying. And failing. To rebuild what had been broken between them all those years ago. Despite everything, the family found solace in one thing, John's passion for dancing. That passion had only grown over the years, blossoming into near obsession, and not one of them failed to notice the beauty and joy he found in it. He had direction now. Purpose even. And watching him lose himself in his own rhythm filled the family with some measure of peace, even if the wounds hadn't fully healed yet. Surprisingly, the strongest bond John had formed in those 2 years was with Mordred. Once rough and distant, their relationship had become one of the closest in the family. Mordred had taken it upon herself to support John in secret, dragging him into training sessions and pushing him to use his dancing in combat. She treated his sword dancing seriously, knowing full well how effective it could be. She sparred with him regularly, pushing him to adapt and improve. To test his movements in ways dancing alone couldn't provide. John had even managed to defeat her in their last bout, and she had been using her aura at the time. When he'd asked how she'd unlocked her aura, she told him their father had done it for her when she turned 10. Then she shared another truth, that unlocking one's own aura without assistance was possible. Difficult and rare, but possible. She'd explained that doing so made the aura more personal, more refined, because it was the breaking of internal chains by one's own strength. However, the process usually only occurred in moments of mortal danger or extreme emotional breakthrough. She had offered to unlock John's aura for him just weeks ago, but he'd refused gently, saying he wanted to try it himself first. He promised her that if he couldn't do it by his 10th birthday, he'd let her help him unlock it. She respected that choice, even if it worried her. John's relationship with Jean, however midline horizontal ellipsis, was still awkward. There wasn't animosity, but there was guilt. Deep, quiet guilt that lingered in every interaction. John had forgiven her the moment he realized she blamed herself for their father halting his training. She believed her natural talent was part of the reason Miles gave up on John, and no matter how many times John reassured her, she couldn't shake that crushing belief from her heart. She hadn't said it directly, but her actions showed it. Being more reserved around him, holding back in training, giving him space he hadn't asked for. He remembered the time she asked for his help with her dance recital, how uncertain she had looked when approaching him, how hesitant her smile had been when he said yes without even thinking about it. That memory still made him smile when he thought about it now. Then there were the twins. Blanche and Noir. The polar opposites of the Arc siblings. Blanche, the quiet and introverted one, mostly kept to herself. She was never far from her books or her coloring pages, always hiding behind bangs and silence. Noir, on the other hand, was loud, energetic, and impossible to stop once she got going. Where Blanche was shadows, Noir was sunshine, and both of them shared the same sky-blue eyes and golden hair that marked them unmistakably as Arcs. The only way to consistently tell them apart was their hairstyles. Blanche's long and free, Noir's tied up in high pigtails, bouncing with every skip and spin she made around the house. They didn't fully understand what had happened with John and their father, but even at their young age, they knew how to cheer their big brother up when he needed it. Whether through hugs, drawings, or dragging him along into whatever make-believe game they'd made up that day. And John, in turn, loved them dearly for it. Saffron, on the other hand, tried her best to be there for her family in general, but she was busy studying for high school and aiming for the scholarship that would get her into medical school. She still danced with him every now and then when she took breaks, but most of her time was occupied with school and studying. John couldn't be mad at her for that because he agreed her education was more important than dancing with him. After finishing his thoughts, John placed his wooden sword inside the hollowed-out tree trunk he had prepared long ago. He thought about how Mordred had stolen that wooden sword from the family's training weapon rack and told their father she broke one when she accidentally struck too hard in training. John smiled lovingly as he thought about Mordred. She was the only one, in those first few months after his father had stopped his training, who didn't treat him like he was made of glass. Mordred had actually stalked him through the forest, intending to train him herself. Until she discovered he'd already been training alone for quite some time. She had been shocked when she first saw him, not only because he was practicing so deep in the woods alone, but also because of the way he incorporated dancing into combat. Mordred remembered clearly how John had looked back when he trained with their father. It always seemed like he was bound by chains, like every movement was being restrained, like he wasn't meant to fight that way at all. When she saw him sword dancing for the first time, her jaw dropped wide open in awe. The way he moved was nothing like the rest of their hunter-trained family. Mordred often told him their father was simply too rigid of teacher if he couldn't see the possibility of turning John's talent for dance into combat ability. She'd always say that one day he would regret stopping John's training when he saw how skilled he had become. John only smiled in response and said he held no grudge against their father. He admitted that, in many ways, if his training hadn't been stopped, he might never have found this kind of freedom. He would still be forcing himself into someone else's mold. Mordred had been the first to support him when he said he wanted to keep his training secret from the rest of the family. She eagerly offered to be his sparring partner, excited to help him challenge and refine his skills in any way she could. He couldn't help but love her even more for supporting him so fully. As he walked through the forest in the direction of town, John smiled to himself, thinking about how far he had come on his journey to becoming the kind of huntsman he dreamed of being. From the boy who couldn't hold his sword properly, to one who danced with it like the wind, gliding through leaves with grace and strength alike. Day by day, his skill grew more refined. Add to that the fact that Mordred, who even at her young age was still the most aggressive fighter in the family, continued to spar with him daily. His ability to counter her attacks was magnificent. The way he danced around her strikes, the precision in which he parried, was truly breathtaking to watch. Even when Mordred used her aura against him, she had extreme difficulty landing blows. Without her aura, John won every single match. And with it, she only managed to win 4 out of 6 fights. That too after pressing herself to her limits. His skill had reached such heights that even aura wasn't enough to bridge the gap between them anymore. Chapter 4. When John reached the edge of the town, he pat down his shirt, brush away the dirt that has covered some part of his shirt. He then walked through the town with a smile on his face as the people greets him. "Johnny boy. I got some ice cream here. Here, take some for you and your sisters." A kind old man offered John a bag of popsicles for all the help John had given to the old man. "Thank you, Mr. Howard. How is your backs doing today? Do you want me to help you the lawn again?" John asked Mr. Howard with his ever-shining smile while he grabbed the bag of ice cream that was offered. Howard smiles kindly at how a boy so young could be so loving and kind. He couldn't help but thank the brothers for allowing a person to have this much love and kindness inside of them. "No worry, John. Just go and play with your sisters, John." Howard smiles and ruffled John's hair while John chuckled, unbothered by the fact that his hair looks like he had walked through a tornado. "Thank you, Mr. Howard." When John walked again, he stopped when he saw the kind old lady. Mrs. Nina is carrying a few groceries bag by herself. "Mrs. Nina, here, let me carry it for you." John takes the groceries bags from her hands. "What would I do without you, young man?" Mrs. Nina lovingly kissed the top of John's head and led him to her house. "Now what's a young man like you doing here, helping an old lady like me and not play with his friends?" Mrs. Nina asked John while she opened the door to her home. "Well, I love doing this, Mrs. Nina. Helping the people is what I love." John answered her while putting the bags on the floor of her doorway. "Next time when you see me, Mrs. Nina, please just ask me if you need something to be helped with, like the lawn or even taking out the trash." "I will, dear." She chuckled and think about how kind this boy is before she offered him a handful of candies. "Here is some candies for how kind you are, John." John chuckled and accepted the candies before running off into the way direction to his house. "Thank you. And don't forget to tell me if you need something." "Oh wait. The ice cream." John sighs before he shakes his head and continue walking. Mrs. Nina can give them to her grandchildren. While he walked to his home, people keep greeting and talks to him while he stop and help them with anything, from the busy shopkeeper to the local doctor. Everybody in the town know about the kind boy and loves him for how helpful he is. When John reaches his house, he is carrying bags upon bags of things that the kind people have given him, and it includes toys to snacks. "I'm home." John opened the door and announced his arrival as he walked to the kitchen to drop off the bags. He saw his mother carrying the sleeping baby Olivia. "Hey Mom," he whispers to his mother, not wanting to wake up his baby sister. "Do you want me to hold her so you can prepare to go to the mall, Mom?" Luna smiles and wonders how John still loves her for giving his father the green light. "It would be wonderful, John." John then hold the baby. She leans her whole body deeper in his hold. He then sat on the couch holding the baby while waiting for the rest of the family to be done preparing themselves. He hummed happily to himself on how today it's going to be a family bonding time, and it could maybe even lessen the guilt that his father still have for him. "I already told him many times before about how I forgive him. But he still can't get over it." John sighed to himself. "Well, I guess he also doesn't know that I never actually stopped training." While he waited patiently for the rest of the family to come downstairs, one by one they arrive from their rooms and sees John holding the baby. "John. Where's Mom?" Blanchard, the quiet person she is, asked John gently. "Yeah. Where's Mom?" While Nwa, the loud one of the twins, asked John excitedly as she can't wait to go on the mall. John looked at the two before he put a finger to his lips, and they finally noticed the baby that he is holding. "Well, where's Mom then?" Nwa whispers excitedly. John chuckled softly with how excited Nwa is. "Mom's getting ready. Now let's wait for the others." John whispers to Nwa before they wait for the rest of the family. A couple of minutes had passed before the rest of the family trickles in, and John hands Olivia back to his mother before they walk out of the house and get into the car. An hour of driving had passed before they arrive at the city's mall. While they get out of the car, John couldn't help but feel a little sad at the fact that his father still distanced himself away from him by frankly trying to talk as little to John as possible, no matter how many times John had talked to him. Mildred notices this throughout the carried, and the only reason she didn't have another screaming match with John is because the baby is in the car with them, and now that she isn't stuck in the same space as her father, she had calmed herself down before she walk over to John and sling her arm over him. "Lil bro. Let's go the arcade and play that new Street Hunter game that just come out. I'll bet you that you won't even come close to beating me." John smiles at his sister as she offers him to take of his mind of the thought of his father. "Yeah, John. While you kids go and play, your father and I are going to go shopping for Olivia." Luna told them as the sisters dragged John with them to go to the arcade, and Saffron going with them to watch over them. While they play at the arcade, John is walking with Saffron as the others are playing. "John, did you go out to the town again today?" Saffron looked at her loving brother with a gentle smile on her face while she walked beside him as they both carries drinks for the others. "Yeah, I did. Some of them give me snacks to share with you girls." John smiled up to her and she smiles back, knowing that John is safe in the town because the whole town practically loves him, being the town's golden boy. Saffron always thought that John put his heart on his sleeves with how kind he is to everyone. She once asked him about how he could be kind to everyone he meet. The answer he gave her that day makes her wonder how her little brother could be so loving in this grim-infested world. "How I can be kind to everyone, Saf?" "Well, that's easy. Because strangers are just friends you haven't met yet." Saffron shook her head to stop herself from reminiscing about that day. She then looks in front of her where her sisters are playing on the arcade games, while Mildred and Artoria in an aggressive match on Street Hunter with Nor cheering them, while Jean using the claw machine to get some dolls for Blanchard while she silently watch. As they come and put the drink on a nearby table, Saffron thought that it would be better to give them the drink later when they are done. She then looks at John, who was looking at them with love. She always wondered where John got all that love from. Even their parents doesn't look at them with as much love as John. Out of all the arcs, she reckoned that John is the one who is the most honest when it come to the matter of the heart. As young as he is, it's pretty obvious for the rest of the family to see that he is the one who loves them the most. Not only them, even the people who is in the town knows how loving and kind John is, and they themselves love John back with as much love as they could. Whenever she come to the town to buy grocery or school-related matters, the people always recognize her as the older sister of John, and they always give her something as a thanks for whatever John did, or even a huge discount, sometimes even 40% off. Saffron shook her head and sighed. With how much of a loving person John is, the whole family would have to prepare with how many girls is going to be heartbroken by him. As the day goes by and they are done having an outing on the mall, now it's time to go back home. John sit on the car as the sisters chatter. John is currently contemplating on what he should do when it's time to become a huntsman. First, he should unlock his aura, and second, he could not let his parents know about it. He cannot and would not want to be another drama for his family to fight with. His heart could not handle it if any more of his sisters fight because of him. John sighs as he shooks his head to get rid of the thought of the future. A few hours had passed and John is in his bedroom just laying down on the bed thinking about life. As the night grows darker, John is laying down on his bed with a wary heart. His instinct is telling him to go to the forest. He knows that it's a stupid idea, but he trusts his heart, as stupid as it sounds, so he then stand up from the bed and walk to the door before he puts his ear on the door and listen closely for sound of his family still out and about. All he could hear are slightly muffled sound and silence, so he reckoned it would be safe enough to sneak out of the house and go to the forest, to the place where he usually train. While John sneak out of the window, he carefully climbs down from the pipe before he walk down the hill where his house reside on into the path of the now quiet town. John walk through the town discreetly, not wanting some of the people still awake recognizing him. When he managed to reach the outskirt of the town, he quickly scurries into the forest while hiding from a couple of patrolling guards who is thankfully a few blocks away. While he walked through the forest quietly, he could hear the sound of crickets and the occasional rustling of small animals. He could feel the eyes of the animals who reside high up in the trees looking down on him, wondering if he is a predator hunting for them or just another prey to be hunted. John walked through the deep forest with his heart beating loudly, wondering why did he come here anyways. His heart is telling him to come here and he still wonder why. He shooks his head to rid of the thought of Grim ambushing him and killing him. Damn. Hopefully my luck is not that bad. right? When he reached the river where he normally trained at, his hands suddenly itched to hold his sword. His instincts suddenly blared in his brain to dodge, and he desperately dodged to his side, narrowly dodging the claws of what could only be an alpha beowulfs. Damn! My luck is that bad. John shouted inside his mind when he rolled on the ground. Why is a Grimm here? Let alone an alpha beowulfs. The patrolling hunters should have killed them. Did they miss this one? His thoughts screams at himself while his heart beat wildly against his chest, but before he can think any answer he is forced to roll over again to his side, missing the claws by a hair's breadth. I can just roll all night long. I need something. John then have an idea hit his head. I need a weapon. Stupid John. Should had think of that in the first place. He then sees the tree where he hide his wooden sword in, but unfortunately the Grimm is blocking the way to the tree. He needs to pass by the Grimm to get to his wooden sword, and even if the wooden sword is not enough to kill it, let alone injure him, at least he can meet his grandpa knowing that he fight till the end. As the Grimm growls at him, he mentally chides himself for dodging away from the tree rather than towards the tree. The Grimm then crouch as it prepared to charge at John. The Grimm predictably leapt at him and John rolled under it, missing the gaping mouth and its claw, but it managed to nick his back a little. I need something fast. He desperately stands up and tries to reach for the wooden sword, but the Grimm is faster than he is. It then smacked John's left side, launching John into a nearby tree away from the sword. His back hit the tree with a loud thud and he slides down the trunk. John start to cough blood and he think he broke his arm and some of his ribs. He gasped for air trying to catch his breath, but it only made the coughing become even worse. John looks up at the Grimm with half-lidded eyes and he start to shake when he try to stand on his feet, not wanting to keel over and die yet. The Grimm looks at him as it start to play with its food. John looks back at the Grimm in defiance and anger. I will not die tonight, he managed to croak out of his bloodied mouth. I will protect the people. I will not let you be free to hurt the people I love. John declared, and he feels that his soul is ravaging through his body. He can feel the sound of chains breaking as his love is fighting through the pain. Rattle rattle clink, the sound of the last chains break and fall off. His body starts to glow white and circuit-like white pattern starts to cover his body as his love start to become even stronger. John start to feel more unrestricted with every moments that had passed, and the Grimm feels a threat to its life before it rush at him and swing its claws toward John's head. What's happening to my body? John is confused on what is happening. The feeling of power and freedom is foreign to his body because unknown to him, his soul has been freed from the chains that's holding it back. This is not the time to think, John. He mentally berate himself and shooks his head, ridding the unnecessary thought out of his head. When he looks up from the ground, he then finally noticed the Grimm's claws that is coming towards him. John looks at the claws in confusion while it comes toward him slowly as if it is moving in slow motion. He then take a single step towards his tree and ducked his head slightly to not get hit by the claws. His vision then suddenly blurred and his muscles aches. John blinked and find himself at the base of tree where he hide his sword away. He found himself confused on how he got here. What? I was at least 10 meters away. John shook his head and focuses himself on the Grimm, who is now turning at him and starts to run slowly towards him. He subconsciously reached into the hollowed tree and grabbed the sword before he put on a stance with it. John then felt as if he is supposed to let this unknown energy flow from his body to the sword. John then sees that his sword start to grow glowing circuit-like pattern over it. He wonder what could the circuit-like pattern means. The Grimm then swings at him again. John then calmly dodge under it and swings upwards toward the Grimm's chin. The sword hit the underside of the Grimm's jaw with boom, and splinters of wood is flying through the air as the sword explode into splinters. John hurried, covered his face with his arms, and after a few seconds he lowered his arms to take a look, only to find a headless Grimm and its body falling towards him. John steps around the falling body of the Grimm, and when he looked down at his hand he finally noticed his right hand is now covered in the same white circuit-like pattern that his sword had. What is happening? He wondered what has happened to make him so fast and managed to kill the Grimm with one blow. He examined the circuit-like pattern on his hand. John then sees the circuit starts to fades away and suddenly immense pain appeared everywhere in his body as if his muscles is all torn apart and his bones fracturing when the circuits completely fades away. He didn't even manage to let out a scream before he fall down to the ground, his mouth open wide while he gasped for air. Madrid, help. That was John's last thoughts before his vision turned to black. Author's note: if you all are wondering why John isn't using his dance skill to fight the Grimm, you have to understand that he is just a 9-year-old boy who got ambushed by a Grimm that is more than 10 times his size. He panicked. Okay. This is his first encounter with a Grimm, let alone an alpha Beowulfs. Even an MMA fighter would forgot how to fight if they were attacked by a rabid wolf. Chapter 5, John POV. I opened up my eyes and let out a pained groan. Damn. My whole body hurts. It feels like every single fiber of my muscle have been shredded rough by a meat grinder and all of my bones is crushed by a road roller. What happened? I managed to croaked out through the pain and I tried to sit up but I gave up halfway there and lay back down on the floor. I then look at the moon and sees that it's already low. I probably have an hour or two before dawn's break. I then try to remember what the actual hell had happened, hopefully it would explain my current situation. I remember my stupid decision to follow my heart. Why did I do that? I chuck it up to me being a kid. Kid do stupid stuff, right? Well, I am kinda stupid. So I guess that answers it. And I then remember walking deep into the forest and reach my usual spot before I had to dodge something, and thankfully I did, cause that something is a alpha Beowulfs. Why is there a lone alpha Beowulfs alone in the forest? Why would there even be a Grimm in the forest? My father and a few of hunters that is still hunted any Grimm in the forest or the surrounding LND once every 3 days. Well, not Dad, he sometimes need to go away for weeks if the job need him somewhere else. Like that time on Atlas where he become the bodyguard for one of the Schnee. And I guess it's kinda stupid of me to even go here in the first place, considering about a couple of days ago I overheard Dad talking to Mom about how the hunters let a Grimm escaped. Dad tried to track the Grimm down the whole night but it looks like he didn't find it, huh? This is a bad way to find out about it. I should be thankful that it's me that the Grimm found and not Madrid. I don't want to imagine Madrid fighting the Grimm alone with a wooden sword. I remember me rolling under the Grimm and I think it managed to nick my back. I would had checked it if I could. But I guess compared to what happened next, that scratch would not be my biggest worry because the Grimm slapped me into a tree. I'm pretty sure I broke my ribs and my left arm. Shit. How do I explain this to Mom? I would be pretty happy if she can come here and heal me, but no. John, you just have to sneak away in the middle of the night, didn't you? Stupid John. And what happened next? Oh yeah. I remember trying to stand up and I'm pretty sure I heard the sound of chains breaking. I then felt it. That energy. It felt like true freedom. Is that aura? That gotta be aura, right? And those circuits. What is that? I never seen Madrid have that. Is that my semblance? No. From what Madrid tell me, she instinctively know what her semblance is when she unlocked it. And that is not my semblance. So that's gotta be my aura, right? Why does that Grimm move so slow anyway? Did that circuits makes me faster? But whenever Madrid used her aura, whenever she showed me on how she used it, she never have that kind of circuits pattern on her body, and also she said that whenever she moves as fast as she can with her aura, it's really hard for her to see or even concentrate. I also experienced that too. I only meant to take a single step to the side of the Grimm so I can get to my tree, but suddenly the world goes blurry and I in front of the tree. And when I picked up my sword, I got a feeling that I could flow that energy. Or aura. I need to ask Madrid about it. I then flow my aura to my sword and it also got the same circuit pattern on it. And that attack. When the Grimm tried to hit me again, I swinging my sword to its jaw and my sword alongside the Grimm's head explode. Could that happen to my arm? I need to go home. I gasped through the pain that has covered my entire body. My aura. I need to use it again. Last night when my body was covered in those circuits I didn't felt any pain. I need to do it again. I start to concentrate to bring that feeling back into my body for a few minutes before I stop and pants roughly, ha. I need to concentrate deeper that I have to feel what I feel before. With new vigor I concentrate deeper and remember the feeling I had when I first experienced that kind of power. I remembered the feelings of pain, fear, anger. And the most prominent and powerful of them all, love. Emotion. Aura is connected to our emotion, right? Well, hopefully it is because I don't have any more idea. Madrid never really told me about this emotion part of the aura. I concentrate on the feeling of my love even more. I start to think about how much I love my family and the people I have met. My mother's cooking with a gentle smile when she looks at the children's playing around. My father's loving gaze when one of his kids shown him something to be proud of. Saffron gentle gaze when she dances with me to the sound of music. Artoria's stoic facade that hide away her gentleness as she looks over and watch the others back while they play the arcade games. Madrid frankly fierce emotion and determination to not be chained by rules and her willingness to support me by helping me train. Jean gentle aura while she gently helped the others do their chores and the gentle smile that had always stuck on her face. Noir's extroverted love towards her twin as she dragged Blanchard to play and Blanchard letting Noir drag her around to play with a small, almost unnoticeable smile that had assaulted her introverted self. Olivia's beautiful eyes that looks at the world in wonder as she looks at it for the first time. I concentrate deeper on the feeling of love that has been prominent in my heart and I can finally feel the energy flowing through and out of my body. I open my eyes to the feeling of the pain greatly lessen in a white force field that has covered my body. At that moment I can finally confirm that the energy that has flowed through my body was my own now unlocked aura, but I didn't got that circuit pattern again when I looked at my arm. But this confirms it that it is aura. I'm still curious about the circuit-like pattern that has covered my hands and presumably also my body before, but I put the thought away for some other time as I focus on the aura to help me move. I manage to move my right arm up and when I feel pain, I fight through it as I force to sit up. I did not manage to sit up straight and had to lean on my right arm, and look at what I found. My left arm is bending the wrong way. Madrid's gonna kill me. I then force myself to stand on my own 2 feet as my aura grows brighter to accommodate for the stress my body is experiencing. When I finally manage to stand up, I lean my body on a nearby tree before I look at my surrounding and saw the tree and I had been thrown to is concave in by the force of my body hitting it. How did I survive that? I don't know. But thanks for not hitting that head first. Knows I would break my neck. I wonder where has the body of the Grimm has gone to and my heart start to beat wildly as I look around panicked about where has the dead body of the Grimm has gone to now. Well, I guess that's one less thing to worry about now. I then start to calm myself down and mentally chide myself for forgetting that Grimm's corpses fade away into nothingness after a few hours. I then had the realization that I am in need to go home now. When I look at the night sky and see that I have about maybe 4 hours if I were to be optimistic to go home before the sun rises and the other found my room empty without me being there. I then start to limp as fast as I can back to my town and sneak away into my home. This is ping to be a pain in my butt, isn't it? It took me about 2 hours before I managed to climb into my window. I won't ever do that again. Climbing. With one arm. I fell down a couple of times before I literally grabbed my broken arm and realigned it myself. That was stupid, but with my left arm not bending the wrong way, it's easier to climb the pipe. I then lay on my bed and can't help but laugh as I then think about what happened and how I am now much stronger and being closer to my dream as I had now unlocked my aura. The fact my aura is better quality because of me unlocking it by myself doesn't cross my mind as I am too thankful for being alive and living another day to be a hunter. Well, try to be a hunter. I need to go to the academy first. That's a problem for future John. Chapter 6, John POV. I wake up by the feeling of my broken arm being shaken by most likely Madrid. I grit my teeth to hide away the pain before I open up my eyes, and it looks like I am right again. It is indeed Madrid who wake me up, plus 1 point for John being right and 1 point for John because she woke me up by shaking my broken arm. When Madrid saw my eyes open up, she stopped shaking my arm as she took a look at my dirty, disheveled appearance. John. The fuck? Your face. You looks like you've been fucked by a grim. She then come close to me and grab my arm, not knowing that it's my is broken. I let out a little gasp of pain. Madrid, let go. When she let go of my arm, I use my other arm and hold it close to my chest and use my aura to lessen the pain on my body. Madrid looked at me in shock by the fact that I had unlocked my aura. When I rubbed my broken arm with my right hand, Madrid finally opened up her mouth. John, did you unlock your aura? She almost shouted in excitement at my aura being unlocked, but she managed to stop it from becoming a full-blown yell. Yeah, I did, I told her before I let go of my arm and let it rest on my side. Wouldn't recommend the way I did it, to be honest, I let out a chuckle. Madrid then hurriedly goes to the door and open it up a little bit before she peek her head outside to check if the coast is clear or not. She nod her head in satisfaction when she is confirmed that there are no one in the hallway before she pull her head back in and close the door before she sit on the bed and look at me in curiosity. When did you do it, John? And how? She asked me excitedly. I cover her mouth with my right hand and start concentrate at the sound of the house. When I hear silence and conclude that they are most likely downstairs eating breakfast, I then let go of her mouth and told her. Don't shout, Madrid. The other could hear you. Yeah. So now answer my question, lil bro. How did you do it? She asked me once again and I sigh at her while not as loud before it still hurts my ear. I chuckled as I feel the excitement and pride coming out of her as she looks at me and expectant for the answer I would give her. Well, last night. I snuck through the window to go to the woods. I know that's stupid. You don't need to scold me for it. I already scold myself enough. Hopefully. And then I got ambushed by an alpha beowulf that I assumed is the one that got away when Dad and the other hunters hunt the reported pack of Grim a few days ago. I answer her gently. What? Are you dumb? You could have died, John. Madrid grabbed my shoulders and start to shake me. I can see her eyes starts to waters. Don't cry, Madrid, I'm here now, right? I didn't die. She sniffles before she wipes away her eyes. Okay, now tell me what happened. Madrid tried her best to be scary. Well, when I got ambushed by the Grim, it managed to smack me into a tree and breaking my left arm, and from what I would think a few broken ribs from the impact. I told her gently, not wanting her to feel guilty for aggravating my broken arm. Madrid eyes open wide when she finally understand why I react that way when she grabbed my arm. She feels like she is about to cry again. Madrid then reach out her hands towards me wanting to check the injuries, but her hands never reach my body because she doesn't want to make the injuries worse as she nervously look at me over. Oh, John. I'm sorry. Sorry, John. Her eyes starts to waters and her voice starts to crack. No, it's all right, Madrid. It's okay. You didn't know. I try my best to calm her down, and after 5 minutes of calming her down again, she finally managed to calm herself down even though she is crying a little now. I am sorry, John. I'm such a bad sister, she hiccuped a few times. No, Madrid. You are never a bad sister. You are the best big sister I could have, Madrid. I told her as gently as I could. Now how about I continue my story, Madrid? I ask her so she can take her mind away from my injuries. Yeah, that would be great. She softly answers me and wipes her eyes with her hands. So, after I got hit by the Grim, I did my best to stand, so I at least died standing on my feet. And the Grim is so scary, Madrid. It was so big, she can feel the fear in my voice as she thinks on how I could have survived my encounter with the Grimm. But I cannot be scared, Madrid. I can't leave the family behind. So I start to think on why I want to become a huntsman. I start to think about the family, Madrid. About how much I love the family. I told her with blinding smile, and she looks transfixed by the loving smile that has been plastered onto my face. And then I start to hear the sound of chains breaking, Madrid. And after that my body glows white and I feel powerful, I told her, and the circuits. My body, from what I had seen, it's covered with circuits, glowing white patterns. And then I saw the Grimm tried to hit me again. But it was so slow, Madrid. Like I am inside one of those slow-motion video that you showed me. She mindlessly nodded at that, and then when I tried to step around the Grimm to dodge it, suddenly the world turns blurry and I arrived back at the tree. You know. My tree. The usual one. She nodded mindlessly again, but now she is fully engrossed with the story. And then when I picked up my sword, and when I did, I have a feeling to flow my aura into the sword, so I did that, and lo and behold. The sword got the same exact circuit-like pattern on it. The same as my body. By this point she is solely focused on my story, and she herself get excited wondering how I beat the Grimm. And then next, she starts to bounce on the bed. And then I saw the Grimm swing at me again, Madrid. But I dodge under it and swing my sword upwards to the jaw. After that the sword and Grimm's head explode. She is looking at me in wonder as she herself doesn't even know what I had did to explode the head of an alpha beowulf with just a wooden sword. And after that, well, I guess I exhaust my aura. 'Cause the circuit-like thingy also disappeared from my body. I then fall down and fainted, I guess. And then? What happened, John? Madrid asked me gently, trying to hide away the fear that is clawing its way out of her heart, not wanting to make her little brother see a side that she would rather hide and throw away. And then when I woke up, I think it was 4 hours before dawn. My whole body is in pain, I answered her. Did you got helped by somebody, John? Even if she tries to hide it, her worries is palpable in her voice. No. I woke up alone, but don't worry though. I managed to use my aura again and walk my way back to home. I tried to calm her down and it looks like it worked, as the most important things that come out of this is me going back home alive, and that is enough for her, even if it hurt her deeply knowing that her brother almost died and are only alive now because of a miracle. She take a few deep breaths, calming her down. All that matter is that you are here, John. Please don't do this again, John. I don't want you to die. Her eyes starts to water as she fight the tears away from her eyes. I look at her lovingly, knowing she cares for me that much. Okay, Madrid. Now how about I change my clothes and clean myself, so the others doesn't check up on yous and see me being look like I've been dragged through the dirt by a Grimm. I joke at her and it manage make her laugh a little. When she stands up and open the door, she talk to me one last time before she leaves. See you at breakfast, John, and then she leaves me alone in my room for me to clean up and go downstairs. I start to think about what had happened last night and can't help but smile at the outcome of the whole incident was me unlocking my aura and becoming a step closer to my journey to become a huntsman. Chapter 7, John's POV. I am currently in the toilet taking a quick shower while scrubbing as hard as I can without hurting my ribs even more. Why does no one ever told me that blood is really hard to clean? The front of my shirt had some blood on it. How would I even clean that? I then start to scrub my hair to remove all of the dried blood and dirt. I need to wash my sheets and everything or mom gonna find out. Thank that mom trust me with the chores to the point that she never had to clean my room. Wait, that is a good thing, right? Wait. Am I too independent? Well, it is good that I am that independent, but I'm only 9 years old. Even Saffron need mom to clean her room. Well, she needs mom 'cause she's too busy studying, bless her soul. I let out a chuckle and look at the floor and see the water is slightly red. Hopefully my aura is good enough to heal me, cause if not, I really need mom's semblance to heal me. I let out a sigh before I continue to wash myself. After breakfast I need to take Madrid to the usual place. I really need to ask her about the circuit thingy, I pondered to myself before I continue to clean myself until the water that flow off me is clear. After I grab the towel and XRY myself, I look to the mirror and see that my face only got some scratches. Probably from my aura healing me. I then look down to examine the rest of my body and lo and behold, I look like a road roller had dropped on me. My left arm is obviously broken with it slightly crooked. I need to either put a sling on it or do something to heal it fast. My torso isn't better either, with the ribs obviously broken in. Hell, it looks like I had a dent on my left ribs. And the bruises. God damn the bruises. It's almost black with how purple it is. I then tried to poke my ribs, but it stings a lot. Ouch. I don't know if I'm the luckiest boy alive or the stupidest boy alive. Ha ha ha, I let out a tired chuckle before I go to my bedroom while silently thanking for having my own bathroom/toilet. Fat is connected to my room. That's the privilege of being the only boy in a house filled with 7 girls, I guess. Wait, is it 8 now if I include Olivia? But she's a baby. When I open my closet I start to hum and look at all of my clothes. Which one? Which one? I start to grab each of my shirts and test it on the mirror, long enough but too thin. They could see my left arm. Not long enough but really thick. Not good enough. After 5 minutes of putting on my clothes, I finally walk out of my room wearing a thick knitted Christmas sweater that was made by Mrs. Nina. Thank for Mrs. Nina, because this sweater is the only one that could hide injuries without being too stupid. And it's close to Christmas now, so it isn't that weird. Well, as close as a couple of weeks before winter. But hey, if Mariah Carey can play her song 2 months before Christmas, why can't I put on a Christmas sweater a couple of weeks before winter? As much as I love Mrs. Nina for this sweater, it's really itchy. Like really, really itchy, I think to myself before I arrive at the start to the stairway. Okay, John. Here goes nothing. I steel myself before I walk as casually as I can downstairs and trying to hide the pain from my ribs and arm when it bounced from my steps. Ugh. This hurts. I really want to use my aura, but none of them can know about it. After a couple of minutes I finally arrive at the dining table where the rest of the family is eating. Good morning. I greet them, and the first to reply to me is Noir by launching herself at me and giving me a tight hug. Ugh. Noir. Don't hug me too tight. I grit my teeth in pain because she is pinning my arms to my side and burying her face on my ribs. John. Why aren't here when I come downstairs? I wanted to eat your pancakes. She then hugged me tighter and jump up and down. Noir. Let go of your brother. John maybe slept a bit late last night. You all did play a lot yesterday. Mom told Noir, and Noir pout before she hugged me tighter. No. I like hugging John. Oh, why did you forsake me so? Please save your devoted child. And as if Monty himself heard my prayers, Madrid comes to the rescue by prying Noir off me. Let go of him, you little brat. Madrid. Artoria yell out to Madrid. Don't call Noir that. Fuck off, bitch. Why don't you mind your own business? Madrid shouted back while she grabbed my right shoulder and guided me to the table and the seat where I usually sit while we eat, which is beside her. Madrid. Please mind your language. Your sisters are too young to hear that kind of language. And don't say that word to Artoria, she's your sister. Dad tried to interject before a full-blown fight between Madrid and Artoria started again for the 13th time this week. Oh, you little Madrid was about to shout back at Dad, but I put a hand on her shoulder. Madrid. Olivia is here, I motioned to Olivia, which is being carried by Mom. Madrid opened her mouth before she closed it and sigh. Okay. We then sit on our chairs before she lean and whisper to me soft enough that only I can hear her. It's just that. John. You're hurt. I nodded her before I whispered back. I know. AMD, that's why I love you. Because I know that you will always have my back. She then blinks before she smiled and chuckled. You betcha. I then hummed and looked at the table before I tried to plate myself some food with one arm, but Madrid stopped me and just put some food on my plate before I can even lift a hand. So John. It's weird that you wake up pretty late. Usually it's you that wake up first. Especially in the past year with Mom being pregnant and all. And you basically making us breakfast. Saffron asked me while she eat with one hand and with her other hand she is flipping through some books. Well, I guess I am just that tired, I guess. Well, I did help around the town even before we go out to the mall, I answered her before I start to eat. Thank you. I said to Madrid, in which she nods and continue to eat her food. So Dad. What are you planning to do today? I look at Dad hoping that he would at least look at me in the eyes, and contrary to my wish, he didn't. Well, I plan to grab a couple of hunters and try to track down the Grim that escaped. Knows what kind of mayhem that Grim will bring if it encounter a group of civilians, he answered me while looking at his food. You kids don't go to the woods, okay? Wait. There's a wild Grim that Dad and his friends lost. Jean said worriedly. May help Dad to track down the Grim? Well, I guess that's too late. But I need more info, because what if Dad find my spot? There are a few evidence that a Grim had fought something on my spot. Well, I could just find another spot, lay low for a few days and heal up. But that place is special to me, I thought to myself before I sigh. Well, I guess it's also not that big of a deal if Dad find my spot. Only I and Madrid knows about it. Dad then look at Artoria. Artoria. Do you want to come with me? I can teach you on how to track a Grim. He asked Artoria. Artoria meanwhile continued to eat elegantly. I would be happy too, Dad. Can I join? Jean asked Dad, and it started a whole lot of noise. Me too. Me too. I wanna see. Noir start to jump up and down on her seat. Noir. Don't jump on the seat. You'll fall and hurt yourself. Saffron put her book down and yelled at Noir. Noir. Listen to your sister. And don't be so loud, Olivia will wake up. Mom scolded both Noir and Saffron. It's so loud. Blanchard meanwhile put her hands over her ears and her eyes to water. Please don't fight. I then look at Olivia and see her face starts to wrinkle. Well. That's bad. You way. Olivia screamed out and start to cry. The whole dining table start to turn into chaos, but I look at Madrid and tap her leg to get her attention. Madrid. After we eat. Can you go to my room? I have something to show you. About my aura and the circuit thingy I talked about, I whispered to her and she nodded. How about at 10? After Dad, Artoria and the two little brats leave to track that Grim down. She smirks at me knowing that the hunt will be absolutely pointless. I smiled and wonder how I am so lucky to have this good of a family. Chappie 8, John's POV. As soon as I finish eating I quickly say goodbye to the rest of the family before I walk as quickly as I could to the stairway without making my ribs hurt even more than it did. I really need to do something about my ribs. Wait. In the movies they wrapped the body with some bandages. Would that work? Well, even if it doesn't work it wouldn't hurt to try. Well, I would hurt putting it on, but it would be good enough to hold my ribs in place while I pump my aura onto it. I paused at the middle of the stairway and started to hum as I think on where would the med kit be located, because I don't have it in my bathroom. It would most likely be in either Saffron's or Mom and Dad's bathroom. I could grab the one in Saffron's bathroom, but she would probably check it more often than Mom and Dad, considering Dad usually have Mom heal him. I nod to myself at the great detective work. Ehehe. Detective John. Sweet short AMD rolls of the tongue. The ladies will love it. I shake my head before I walk up the rest of the stairs and go to Mom and Dad's room before I quickly go to their bathroom and start to think on where would they put the medkit in. The top cabinet? Nah. That would be stupid. What if someone is hurt really bad and they can't reach medkit? So the sink's drawer then. I nod to myself, Detective John for the win. I then open the sink's drawer and thankfully the medkit is there. I then grab it before I open it. I can't take the whole medkit, I had to take just what I need. I let out a hum and start to carefully rummage through the medkit. Roll of bandages? Check. Bruise cream? Check. And what else? I really should read on some medical books, but this should be enough. Hopefully. I hummed and put the medkit back to its place before I quickly hide the bandages and bruise cream under my sweater. Ouch, I then rub my ribs softly because I move my body to quickly putting the stuff under my sweater. After I feel good enough to stand up and walk again, as quickly as I could, I go back to my room. Should I put the bandages on right now? But what if the others come to my room? And it would be easier to wait for Madrid to put the bandages on me. I can't exactly reach around my bag without hurting myself more. I let out a sigh before I slide the stuff under the bed and I then climb onto the bed and lay myself down as gently as possible. Ouch. What I wouldn't give for Mom to heal me now. But I can't. Mom would ask questions. I then start to concentrate and focus my aura on ribs. Wow. That feels good. Having aura is the best. Why didn't I just accept Madrid offers to unlock mine a long time ago? Well, at least my aura is much better quality than it would be if she unlock it. I then raise my right hand and look at it. Those circuits. Can I do it again? I then focus and after a few minutes the circuits appear on my hand, but unlike before, the amount of lines is less. Much less than before. And B glow is much dimmer. It's not the same as last night. But it felt strong. Maybe it have different level depending on the amount of aura I pumped? I start to think to myself. I need Madrid for this. She should know more about this. But she never told me about this circuit thingy. Maybe she thinks that it's too advanced for me. But she never hide anything from me. Well, never hide anything from if it meant that I would be much stronger knowing about it. I nod to myself because I trust Madrid with my life for this kind of things. Madrid's POV, I watched John stand up and say goodbye to everyone before he walks to the stairs. Fuck. John, don't walk that fast. You'll hurt yourself. Madrid let out a sigh before she continues to eat. Come on, Dad. I want to go too. I want to be a huntress when I grow up. The little brat is still jumping up and down the chair. Oh, what I wouldn't give to strangle the brat to shut her mouth. Madrid. Calm yourself down. She's your sister. Not some kid. I shake my head and let out an annoyed sigh and try my best to focus on the food while ignoring the others as best as she can. Still can't believe about how stupid John is for fucking sneaking out in the middle of the night to go to the forest. How dumb is that kid? Don't he know how sad I would be if he died? What about Mom? Saffron. Hell, even the bitch Artoria will cry. I frowned and stab into my pancake with force. He's fucking lucky that he managed to unlock his aura by himself. And his arm. Ribs, I feels my eyes start to water again before I shake my head. No. John don't need me crying. He needs someone to help him use his aura. It's not like that will help him, that useless fuck. That's why the great Madrid arc will help John. I still wonder on how the fuck did Dad never try to teach John on how to fight properly? How many years was it that he trained John, and does it never occurred to his useless brain that maybe he could try to teach John on how to fight like he is dancing? John managed to reach more training by himself than when he was being trained by that stupid asshole. I sigh again to calm myself again and continue to eat. Madrid. Do you want to come too? Dad asked me, but I frowned and glared at him. No. Just go with the others. Well, it's not like I can go with him even if I want to anyway. John wanted me to talk with him later. Dad sighs and nod. Okay, Madrid. I know you're still angry at me. But I am only doing what's best for my children. Hi. That stupid face. If not for Olivia is here, I would jump across the table and punch that face and pummel it. I don't care. I frowned and glare at him before Mom chimes in to stop another fight from starting. Miles. If she doesn't want to go, it's okay. And I don't think it would be good if Madrid joined too, considering that you are already bringing Noir, Artoria and Jean. Your hand is already full for you to bring another one. Yeah, I guess so, Dad answered Mom before he continued to eat. Noir, Jean, eat faster because I'm planning to meet up with the other hunters in about an hour. Okay, Dad. Jean answered Dad calmly, while meanwhile the little shitstain is as usual being too fucking loud. 1 hour. Can we go there faster? But 1 hour. As much as I hate to admit it. I agree with the Noir. I can only go to John's room without anyone following me. If they can go faster, then that's good. I need to help John with his injuries. God damn it. Being the great and caring Madrid arc is such a pain sometimes. Chappy 9. Madrid's POV. After another 20 minutes of eating, I finally finished my food after having another plate. Mom's food is good. But what I would give to have John's cooking now. He is even better than Mom in some places. And he know my exact favorite too, so that's a plus. I chuckled to myself before I stand up and grab my plates. Saffron, do you want me to wash your dishes so you can take over Olivia for a bit? Mom hadn't eaten cause Olivia keep crying because of Noir being a little brat. I offered to Saffron while I walk IP to her seat. That would be good, Madrid. She nods at me before she stands up and walks to Mom. Here, Mom, let me hold her for a sec. Saffron asked Mom while she scoops Olivia from Mom's hold. Thanks, Saffron. And thank you to Madrid. She smiles at me and I look away, not wanting her to see me being happy from her thanks. No need to thank me, it's the least the great Madrid arc will do. I chuckled before I grabbed Saffron's plate and walked to sink and start to wash the dishes. In the background I can hear Artoria plating Mom some food, as much as I hate her for supporting Dad. She is a good sister and daughter. I let out a sigh. Here, Mom. I cooked this and I'm curious, and what would you think about this? Artoria put some food on Mom's plate. Wait. She cooked what? I then turn around and look at her serving Mom some bacons. That bitch. No wonder the bacon tastes like shit. It tastes like the fucking ocean. Is this some petty revenge from her because she knows about how much I like bacon for breakfast? John got lucky because I was the one that served him his food, cause he would eat the bacon and it will fucked up his ribs with how salty it is. I take back what I said about her being a good sister. That cold as bitch can rot in hell. I frowned and start to scrub the dish like I am imagining her face that I'm scrubbing with the rough side of the sponge. Should had known that she was the one who cooked the food. I thought Mom accidentally dropped too much salt on the bacon. Fucking bitch, I grumbled under my breath. After a few minutes of washing the dishes, I grab a towel and dry my hand. I look at Dad before I sigh and steel myself. This is for John, Madrid. For him. Please. Calm yourself down to not start a fight. So what time are you going out to the other hunters? I asked Dad while silently gritting my teeth. Dad eyes open wide in confusion because frankly this is the first time in many months that I start a civil conversation with him. What? What? Time. Are you leaving? I glared at him. Is he deaf? Does he speak English? If he say what one more time, Emma starts throwing hands. Oh. Well, the only one still eating is Jean. So after Jean finish her food then. And after they change their clothes to their hiking clothes, because we could be out there in the forest for hours. He finally answers me, thank Monty cause I was about to crash out. Well, I'm just about finish, Dad, Jean chimes in before she takes the last bite of her food. I'm done. Come on. Come on. Let's get going. Noir get off her chair before she grabs Dad's hand. I sigh before I walk to the stairs. I'll be in my room, I tell them before I walk up the stairs and to the front of John's room. I then let out a sigh. I can't go in now. Who knows if they search us for me if they need help with something. I'm gonna be in my room until I watch them leave from my window. I then turn around and walk to my room before get inside. The inside of my room is covered with poster of rock bands and even a couple of guitars. Electric guitars obviously. I smirk before I jump on my bed, rock music is the best. My favorite with the Subutan. They make really good music. I then sigh and lay down on my bed while looking at my posters. If only I can dance like John. I could help him with his dancing skills. But the best dance move I could do is the stanky legs. I laugh softly and close my eyes and wait for the other to leave. After I take a nap I wake up to the sound of more cheering outside. I then look out from the window and see Dad and the others walking. Is that Blanche? Yeah, that's her. Noir probably dragged her along. I chuckle before I stand up and walk to my door. Wait, I need to get some medkit for John. Well, Emma just steals some from Mom and Dad's room. I then go to the hallway and get to Mom and Dad's room and quickly get into their bathroom and open their sinks drawer. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. I quickly grab the medkit and hurriedly get out of the room and walk to John's room. I then knock his door before I open it and get inside. John, come on. Let's fix you up. I tell John, who was clearly taking a nap. I then sigh before I suck my finger and insert the wet finger into John's ear, which quickly wake him up. What? Madra, ouch. John sit up too quickly and quickly curled on himself while holding his ribs. Fuck. I'm fucking dumb. Shit. John. I forgot. I'm sorry. I quickly drop the medkit and grab his shoulders. Here, let me take a look. I told John, which he nodded at and slowly uncurl himself. I then help him take off his ugly Christmas sweater. I know he used it probably to hide his injuries. But it's not even winter. Why did he pick this? Does he not have a hoodie or some shit? Well, I never really seen him wearing a hoodie. So maybe this is his only choice. I then finally have a clear look at his ribs and shit. It looks so bad. But that is not what fucking shocked me the most. The thing that shocked me the most is the fact that his chest is glowing. I know it's aura. But that's not possible. John. What the fuck is that? I open my mouth wide open in shock, and meanwhile John looks at me as if I'm stupid. This shithead. How dare he looks at the great Madrid arc like that? My bruises and broken ribs? He asked me confusingly. I know what that is, dickhead. I'm talking about this. I point at his glowing chest. It's my aura. He is evidently confused. Yeah, I know that is aura, but how? If not for his injuries, I would give him a world record. Breaking noogie by now. How? It's my aura, and as for how, I just concentrate on that spot. He answered me. Maybe it's my fault for not explaining it to you before, John. But Aura don't work that way, I tell him before I reach down on the floor and grab the medkit. That I'm confused. He tilt his head and goddamn. He looks so cute that I want to punch it. Is this cuteness aggression? Stop it, Madrid, get back on the topic. Here, let me explain while I bandage you up. I then open the medkit. What? Where the fuck is the bandages? I then start to rummage through the medkit. Shit, did that bastard used all of the bandages and bruise cream? Don't he got mom to heal his stupid face? I then hear John laughs and I look up and glare at him. What's so funny, fuckface? Well, I already grabbed the roll of bandages and the bruise cream. It's under the bed. He chuckles before he stop and hold his ribs. Served you right, Dumbo. I then close the medkit before I get off the bed and grab the bandages and bruise cream from under the bed. So where was I? Oh yeah, Aura, I told him before I get on the bed. Raise your arm. When he raises his arm, I start to apply the bruise cream on his ribs while talking. You can't concentrate, Aura, on one spot of your body. That's what Dad teaches me and what the combat school teach me too. What do you meant by you can't? I'm doing it now. He asked me. Meanwhile, I sigh and start to think. This is going to be a long-ass conversation, isn't it? Sigh. Chapter 10. Mamma mia, John's POV, looking at Madrid's face. It looks like I may or may not have gotten something wrong with Aura. But why does she say that Aura can't be focused on one spot? I'm clearly doing it now. Madrid. I'm confused. 'Cause look at this. I show her my right arm before I focus my surah on it and it starts to glow. Madrid meanwhile sighs. John. How about I explain it to you? I should have explained this to you long ago, but I never guessed that you will have this kind of problem. She sighs again before she finished putting on the cream on my ribs and screw the lid back on. Here, let me show you. I then see her close her eyes before her body have a thin layer of red protective force field. As you know, this is my Aura. She then grabbed the roll of bandages and start to unwrap it. It makes me strong. More durable. It's basically a buff in all stats except for your brain, I guess. But you can't just focus it on one spot of your body. And as you know, Aura is the manifestation of your soul. I nod and look at her. So why can I do it? Let me explain it to you just like how Dad explained it to me when he unlocked my Aura. Aura is like an on and off switch. It's either you turn them on or turn them off. But usually it will activate a split second before a fatal blow hit you, she then explained even further. Aura can't be controlled in only one spot, if you get what I'm saying. And it's restricted to your body only. My eyes widen at her words. Restricted only to my body? That can't be right. I used my Aura on the sword. Wait. The circuits. Is she told me that people can't control and focus their Aura on one spot of the body, then what about the circuits? The circuits, Madrid. You know about the circuits, right? There's no way a dumb kid like me just magically become a pioneer in controlling Aura. I can't just. Discovered a different way to use in the first minute I unlocked it. The circuits? Yeah, you told me about the circuit this morning. I'm confused about that, John. Maybe the circuit is your semblance? She asked me, but I know for sure it's not my semblance. I shake my head to her. No, it's not my semblance, Madrid. You told me that when you got your semblance, you instinctively know that it's your semblance, right? Because it's stored in a part of your brain? She nodded at me. Yeah, a semblance is stored in about the right front part of your brain. Yes, that's why when a person awakens their semblance they instinctively know how to use it. And instinctively know that it's your semblance because a semblance is just a more tangible manifestation of your soul. She then spread her fingers and red electricity start to course through her fingers. Like this. I instantly know that it's my semblance and I instinctively know about all of its uses. I can train it even further and discover new ways to use it. But I instinctively know the basics like how to up the power. Yeah, well the circuits isn't like that. I don't know how to use it. Yes, I instinctively use it, but it's not like I know how to use it. It's just like common sense. Just like when I use the circuits on my wooden sword. And I know for a fact that it's not my semblance and it's all made up of aura, I explained to her. How about this? After I bandage you up, you can show me the circuits. For now just tell me about what you felt when you use it. She then start to bandage my torso. Well, when I use it last night, I was confused but I felt free. Like my body is not being tied down. And love. I felt a lot of love, I hummed before I flinched when she tightened the bandages. Ow. And when I look at my hand there's like this white circuits pattern crawling on it. And I just felt like that I can flow it to my sword, and it did. The circuits crawled onto the sword. It's not like there's anything stopping me from trying to transfer my aura onto my sword. She then start to tie the bandages on my torso. The feeling of freedom. That's normal, I felt that too when I unlocked mine. But love? I never experienced that. That is weird. After she finished tying the bandages she then gently grabbed my left arm and start to examine it. Shit, John. It's broken. How about try to focus your aura here? I nodded her before my left arm start to glow. This is weird. I never knew someone can use an aura like this. And what you said about transferring your aura into your sword. That's impossible. Aura is the manifestation of your soul, you can't transfer it to anything other than your own body. She shakes her head before she looks at me straight in my eyes. What happened after you stopped using those circuits? My body shivers while I remembered about what had happened. It hurt. Like my muscle is torn apart and my bones breaking, I explained to her and see her brows furrows. Which part hurt the most? Well, everything I guess. She then grabbed my right arm and start to massage and feel my arm. Yeah, John. Your muscle is actually a little torn up. Like as if you overtrained your muscle and some of it is broken. But it'll be fine when your aura heal you up. She nods at me. But yeah. According to what I know. A semblance can't physically hurt you. Like I can't get electrocuted by my own semblance but I will still get electrocuted if I got zapped by a taser even though my semblance is much stronger than a taser. Do you want me to show you the circuits now? I asked her. Yeah, but wait a minute, let me quickly put the stuffs back into the med kit and store it back to its place before Mom accidentally discover it missing. I then watch her quickly stuff the things inside before she go out of my room. A semblance can't physically hurt you. So what exactly is this thing? I know it's aura. But from what I heard from Madrid, she never knew things like this existed. And she goes to a combat school. A combat school which she always skipped classes but she still got a pretty good grades from me helping her study. Maybe it's stupid but I can't exactly discover a new use for aura, right? Aura has been around for thousands of years now. I think. But I'm just a stupid kid that do stupid stuff like going into the woods at night and getting attacked by an alpha wolves, and in Atlas gears like hundreds of scientists trying to find new ways to use aura and bunch of more stuff. I think I saw the news about some secret stuff being leaked by the White Fang and it got info about aura and stuff. The news doesn't exactly tell us what actually got leaked but I know it involves aura. I then sigh and put the sweater back on, hopefully my body heal faster. It ache really bad. Like really, really bad. I want to cry bad. I want to curl up and weep kind of bad. After I lay down and just breath for a couple of minutes, Madrid finally comes back. Hey John, you're sleeping? She asked me before she sit on my bed. No, I was just trying to catch my breath. My whole body hurt. I then slowly sit up. So you're ready? I asked her, which she answers me with a nod. I then raise my right arm and focus on it. I imagine filling my muscles with aura before I then create pathways for my aura to flow through. It hurts making the pathways, but it won't stop me. On my right arm there's now some thin and faint circuits like pattern on it. There. It's much weaker and thinner than last night, but it's the same. I then give her my arm, which she immediately grab and start to examine it. Wow. This is so cool, John. Like, how do you do it? She asked me while tracing the patterns with her fingers. Well, I first focused on my arm and fill it up with my aura before I create pathways like the patterns so my aura can flow through. I explained to her, and she then let go of my arm before she hummed and closed her eyes. Her body starts to glow as her aura activates, and I let go of my circuits and let it disappear while I watch her try to do what I had done. After a few minutes her aura deactivate and she let out an annoyed sigh. I can't do it. It just won't work. Like, I can't just fill one part of my body with aura, let alone create pathways for it. She then pouted at me before she leaned her face on my face. Explain to me about how you fill your arm with aura or I'll bite. I back my face away slightly and raise my right arm in surrender. Okay. I did it just like I told you. I just focus and imagine filling it up with my aura. That's it. Ark's honor. She glared at me before she sighs. After you're healed, let's have a fight. She then start to chuckle darkly. He, well. Let's hope nothing goes bad. Hopefully. Avocado. Everyone wants some fresh avocado. Chapter 11, Mordred's POV. Is it wrong that I want to beat the living shit out of my little brother? Well, he is annoying me by a lot, with him going out alone. By himself. Without me. And look at what that got him. A broken arm and ribs. If not for the fact that he miraculously unlocked his aura, I wouldn't have a brother to beat the living fuck out right now. I then continue to chuckle darkly. John, when I get my hands on you. You'll finally experience the great and bestest Mordred Ark's full power. I can already imagine shooting lightning at him. Unlimited Puwawaya. He. After a couple of seconds of more laughing, I then cough into my hands because now it's time to talk about something more urgent. Okay, let's talk about what's more important now, John. I then point at his broken arm. How the fuck are we going to hide that shit? John looked at me like a dumbass. Maybe fake falling down the stairs. Falling down the stairs. Really? That's the best he could come up with? Unless we managed to trick Noir to accidentally push John down the stairs, it would still be stupid, cause why would you want to injure himself more? I really do have a dumb brother. A dumb brother who accidentally discovers new ways to use his aura. But he is still dumb. I sigh and shake my head. So you want to injure yourself more and risk wiping away all the hard work your aura had done to heal your bones? He nodded at me. Well. Maybe we could. Fake it? Like, if you don't want me to actually fall down, then maybe you could just tell Mom that I break my arm falling down the stairs? I let out a tired sigh. This dumb kid. And after that? What would happen if I tell Mom that? Mom will personally check your body to see your injuries, and lo and behold. Look at what she found. Broken ribs and a broken arm alongside some torn muscle and shit. How would you explain that? John's eyes open wide before he sighs. Thank I'm almighty, cause it looks like my brother doesn't got brain damage. Because look at that, his 3 brain cells is finally working now. Well. I don't know then. It would probably take a month to heal my body. He said to me while palming his face. Well. From what I feel when I checked your body. Your injuries are about 20% healed now. As soon as I said that, John lifted his head so fast that he hurt his ribs again. Ow. What do you meant by that? He asked me while clutching his side. Well, your aura is like the best quality I had ever seen. Like really, really high quality. For example, do you remember when I activate my aura and how it is slightly translucent? Well, your aura is like really bright and shit. Almost couldn't see through it. And from what I could guess, you also have a huge amount of it. More than a normal arc would have. But that is just a feeling though, I could be wrong. I answered him before I stand up. Oh. That's great then. I really thought I'm gonna be stuck like this for a month. He then laughs softly but quickly stop when he hurts his ribs again. I really should stop doing that. He may be dumb, but he is my dumb brother. I sigh and shake my head. Now because you have aura. I will up the intensity of our training, fuck the one-hit rule. It's fucking annoying having to hold myself back from pummeling your face into the ground. I most certainly did not laugh. He then had the audacity to sigh. Mordred. I'm still injured. Can you take it easy for me please? At least for the first time. He think he can order the great Mordred arc on what to do. I then look at the puppy eyes that he gave me and tried to resist. Shit. Those eyes dealt critical damages. Okay. Okay. I'll take it easy on you. I let out a sigh and give up. He's lucky that he is my little brother. 'Cause ain't no way I'm going to let himself that easy. I then pout and face away from him. Okay. Okay. How about this? After I'm healed enough to do stuff without being in pain, I'll cook your favorite food. He offered to me, but damn. How can I resist that offer? I would be stupid if I do. I can imagine the cheese bacon wrapped juicy turkey leg. Ehehehehehehe. I start to chuckle and daydream while some drools comes out of the side of my mouth before I shake my head and whites it. Okay, I'm taking that deal. But if you try to scam me, you'll face the wrath of the great Mordred. Okay, I'm taking that deal. But if you try to scam me, you'll face the wrath of the great Mordred. Yeah. I know what the wrath would feel like. My body shivers. She's innocent of all harm to my body, but it do be hurting when I carry Olivia to give mom some time for herself. I could carry her with one arm, but I don't want to risk dropping her, so I had to use my broken arm to hold her too. And I can't exactly support her neck and body with one arm considering I'm still a 9-year-old boy. Dad. Well, Dad is still the usual dad. He mostly ignore me. Well, not ignore me, but more like trying to not be alone in the same room as me. Wait, that's not exactly better anyway. No wonder Mordred liked to pick fights with him. And for Mom, well, she is great. Even though she just gave birth 2 months ago, she still insists on helping around the house as much as she can. But I'm a little sad for her. The doctors said that she couldn't get pregnant anymore or it would risk her health, considering that she now had given birth to like 8 children. Well, yeah. I don't even think that it's possible to birth 8 children. In Remnant, most family only have 1 or 2 child, and if they want a big family they would get 3 or 4. But 8? That's a first. Oh yeah. I was talking about my injuries. I got sidetracked a bit. Well, my arm is pretty much healed now. The skin is just a little red, and it's the same for my ribs. I love having aura because it makes life so much easier. I even trained my aura whenever I'm alone. I could comfortably concentrate my aura on one spot without closing my eyes and concentrating too much on it now. Mordred said that I'm a prodigy, which as much as I don't like to admit it. Yeah, I guess I am a little bit of a prodigy. Aura had been around for know how long. It gotta predate even the first hunters, right? Considering that almost everyone can unlock their aura and the first hunter can't be the first to unlock it. Well, Mordred and I planned to spar today. She told me that she found a good spot to replace our old spot. I can't wait to fight her, and she already stole some wooden swords for us to fight with. John. Are you ready? I'm hungry. Mordred called out after me and I nodded at her. Just wait a couple of more minutes. I'm almost about done with the pancake. I answered her. The rest of my family is sitting around the dining table while putting the dishes on the table to be served. I then hummed and think that about how would the spar goes, hopefully I beat her. But if I beat her, well, Mordred won't go easy on me anymore like she promised. I let out a sigh and shake my head before I finish cooking the pancake. Come on. Let's eat. I put the plates full of pancakes on the table before I walked to sit next beside Mordred. Mordred tapped my lap and I then look at her. You ready for today, John? She whispered to me. Yeah, I'm ready, I whispered back, and she smirks at me before she replied back, you best believe I'll beat your ass. Chap 13. And there's a huge announcement, Mordred's POV. Currently John and I are trekking through the forest. I can't wait to show him our new spot cause it took me a fucking while to find it. I had found this new spot about a week and a half after his injuries. It took me a while to find a suitable place. Hell, I even had to scour the forest for close to 5 hours a day. Almost got suspended cause I hadn't done any homework, but it's all worth it because this spot is fucking better than John's old spot. It's just about here, John, only a couple minutes of walking. I tell John, in which he answered me with a nod. This past couple of weeks I hadn't been just dodging my homework and trekking the forest to find this spot. I had done something I kinda don't want John's help with. I tried to train my aura to do what he did. The results, you ask? Well, it's a fucking waste of time. I can't even focus my aura on one spot, let alone do that reinforcement thingy that he does. I had helped him with the reinforcement thingy late at night when everybody was asleep, and we both found out that he can't just pour all of his aura into the things that he reinforced cause it'll explode. After the first time a fucking ruler explodes on our face, we decided. Well, I, the great Mordred Arc, decided that it'll be best to stop using the aura reinforcement for now until I found the new training spot. And today is the day that I'll beat John fair and square. It's fucking annoying doing the one-hit rule. Cause I know for a fact that I can beat him the fuck out if we didn't do that stupid-ass rule. I know it's for his safety, but shit. It's fucking annoying. It's like. Shit, I can't even explain it. Imagine you play football but the referee asks your goalie to not use their hands to catch the ball. It's so fucking unfair. I know that it's more unfair to John cause without aura his stamina is shit, but I ain't gonna tell anyone shit. John's POV, we had been trekking through the forest for about an hour? An hour and 30 minutes? Yeah, about that much. Compared to my old spot, this new spot take way longer to arrive at. Whenever I go to my old spot, it only take me about 40 to 50 minutes of leisure walk through the forest to reach. While we walk through the forest, I start to look around me before I tilt my head and heard something in the distance. Mordred. What's that sound? I asked Mordred. What sound? Oh, that sound. That's our new spot, it's behind a waterfall. She asked with a smug look on her face. Wait, what? Behind a waterfall? I don't even know that we have a waterfall. Waterfall? You're serious? I asked her, but she frowned before she sling her arm around my shoulder and give me a noogie. Say, uncle. You ungrateful brat. It took me more than a week to find this shit. Uncle. Uncle. I surrendered to her and she let me go. Can you take it easy on me, I just got healed. I sigh and rub my head. She actually laugh and smack my ass. Aw, did little Johnny boy got a boo-boo? Do you want me to kiss it all better, little Johnny boy? I pout and look away from her. You're the worst. Just for that, tomorrow I'm not making bacon. Her eyes widened before she jumped on me. Don't you dare threaten my bacon. Bacon is love. Bacon is pure. You absolutely villain. She then bit my skull, but she winced in pain as my aura activated and formed a shield. Shit. It's like biting stone. She then get off me and start to rub her jaw. I'll take my vengeance by hitting you with a sword later, John. Ark's promise. She actually said those sacred words. Ark's promise. That's bad. Because whenever an Ark uses that, then that meant that the Ark must fulfill that promise. Hell, the reason Mom and Dad got married in the first place is because when they were first started dating, Dad drunkenly promised to Mom to marry her and have as much children as they can. Both in which he fulfilled. And how do I know about this secret information, you asked? Well, Saffron accidentally eavesdropped Dad reminiscing to Mom about their past. And Saffron cannot not tell me about it when I asked her a year ago. Sometimes it's good being the favorite. I let out a chuckled. What are you laughing about, dimwit? Mordred glared at me while still being angry about my aura. Nothing. I then glance at her and see her still rubbing her jaw while uttering softly under her breath about how she'll beat my ass. And before I know it, we arrive at the waterfall and goodness. It's beautiful. The waterfall is at least 15 meters in height and the water that fall down on it looks vicious. I then look at Mordred and see her smug face. It's much better than your stupid old spot, right? Now worship me and praise me for being generous enough to bestow this new spot for you, mongrel. She lift her face up and point at her feet. I let out a chuckle and decided to play along. Oh great Mordred Ark, you are the most benevolent and kindest queen there is. I praised her and her ego got too big for her own good. Muahahaha, now the great Mordred Ark will order you to make a stack of bacon for her tomorrow morning. She let out an evil laugh. I will do it, oh great Mordred Ark. After a few seconds we both start to laugh. Ha 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 ha, you're an idiot, John, don't know where you inherit that stupidness of yours from. I chuckled and shake my head. So, how are we getting behind the waterfall? Do you meant by onto of it? Or is there a cave inside the waterfall? There's a cave inside the waterfall. Follow me. She then start to walk to the side of the waterfall. How do you know there's a cave inside of the waterfall anyway? Don't tell me that you believe the movies, right? Mordred's face start to turn pink and she walk faster. Her silence is enough of an answer for M. When we reached the side of the waterfall, she then stopped before she bent her legs slightly and activate her aura. Wait. Are you doing what I think you're doing? I got cut off because she just jumped into the waterfall and disappeared behind the water. That's dangerous. If she doesn't have aura, she would not make it, and even if she did, if the inside is slippery enough, she could slip and hit her head. I then sigh before I crouch slightly and activate my aura. Well, here goes nothing. I then jumped into the waterfall, and when I land I slipped and fell on my behind. Ha 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 ha. You suck at landing, John. Mordred point and laugh at me. I let out a sigh and ignore her because I decided it's more important to look around the cave. It's beautiful. It's huge, about 7 meters in height and about maybe 20 meters side to side. And the light passing through the waterfall make it not only bright enough for me to see, but it makes the cave looks really beautiful. You're the best, Mordred. I tell her before I stand up and walk deeper. I know, right? Your big sis here is the best. She exclaimed at me. I then see where she put our training weapon and my eyes widen when I see we not only got wooden swords but also a few blunt steel training sword. How do you manages to get steel swords, Mordred? Dad would notice it if you stole a few from the weapon rack. I look at her and see her looking away a little shy. Well, I actually bought those from the blacksmith in town. I used my allowance for it. She want to say more, but she don't get a chance because it's my turn to jump at her and hug her tight. The impact from my body make us tumble down into the floor. You're the best, Mordred. I love you. I hug her tighter. WL. Of course I'm the best. I'm the great Mordred Ark, Chapter 14. Oh my God. Third-person POV, John then let go of Mordred before he starts to walk to the weapons rack. Have I told you about how much I love you, Mordred? He let out a big smile and turned his head to Mordred. Mordred let out a sigh while rubbing her ass. Yeah. You don't need to tell me about it, John. And do you really need jump on me like that? It hurts, dumbass. Well. It's not every day that I get to jump on you. John then let out a hummed before he pick up a sword. He then feel the weight and thinks that it's much heavier than what he used to. Well, it's not that much of a surprise considering that he usually used a wooden sword rather than a damn steel training sword. Is this safe? John asked Mordred while running a finger on the blunt blade of the sword. Even though the blade are blunt, it's still a steel sword. It could break bones if you hit someone hard enough, especially with aura-induced strength. Of course it's not safe, dum-dum, it's not a wooden sword. There's a reason why Dad only trained the cold bitch and me with a steel sword, it's because we're old enough to know better and take it seriously. She looks at him like he's a dumbass before she take a deep breath. John. Do you ever hate Dad for what he did? The question took John by surprise, but he quickly composed himself before he let out a hummed as he think while testing the sword by twirling it with on hands. Hate him? Sometimes. But never for long. Because I know as much as it hurt me for him to do that. He think that it's the best choice for me. He then tossed the sword in the air and catch it. You're really weird sometimes, John. You're just so mature. Especially for a 9-year-old, she then shake her hand before she walk over to John and catches his sword when he tossed it in the air again. And stop playing with this shit, don't want it to hit your head and make you lose more brain cell. We both know that you only have 2 left in that brain of yours. She smirks and rests the sword on her shoulder. Are we fighting or what? 'Cause I've been waiting for this day for years, you know? It's fucking annoying holding back. She told him while she walked to the middle of the cave. Come on, don't be a slow poke. John looked at her for a few seconds before he chuckled and shook his head. You're unbelievable, Mordred. He then picked up a longer sword and walked to Mordred. Mordred raised her eyebrows at him, not expecting him to pick a longer sword. Thought you'll pick a shorter one. With your dancing style or whatever the fuck it's called. She then compared him to the sword, even though the sword is just a normal length sword but it's made for adults, compared to his body size it's practically in the middle of a bastard sword or a slightly shorter long sword. Well, it would make more sense if I picked a shorter sword, but this one felt better on my hand. Don't know why, but it felt familiar. Like I had used one this size before. He then shrugged his shoulder before he stand relaxedly with his sword at his side pointed downward. Déjà vu? She asked John while she held her sword in front of her and close to her hips with the sword pointing at John. Yeah. Déjà vu. John then take a deep breath and activate his aura. He can already feel his senses and strength become stronger. Any rules? Mordred then smirked at him before she shake her head and activate his aura. Rules? Fuck that. I want to go all out. This shit is 2 years in the making. You can use that reinforcement of yours whenever you want. There's no way in hell that she is letting shit like rules stopping her to fight all out, especially after 2 years of her losing to an auraless person. John then nodded, but he only planned to not use reinforcement for now because he need to see how strong he would be without using aura reinforcement like that night with the Grim. Without waiting for a signal, Mordred start to rush at John and thrust her sword at him. She's fast. John's eyes widened, not expecting her to be this fast, but he quickly calmed down and smacked her sword that is to the side with his sword. I know she has been holding back against me, but I don't know that aura make this much of a difference. You're surprised? Johnny boy. She let out a wild smile and used the momentum from John smacking her sword away by spinning into it and swinging her sword at John. John then take a simple step back and her sword missed by an inch before he take a step forward and swing his sword straight into her chest and knocking her a few meters back. Shit, Mordred cursed before she launched at John again, but this time she aimed her foot at his face. John then smirked and used his superior footwork by turning his body to the side and catch her leg. Gotcha. Mordred's eyes widened when she felt the pull on her leg because John had used her leg to smack her onto the ground. Shit, that hurt. But she is no slouch because she used her other foot to stomp John's hand. That gotta hurt. John think to himself and is forced to let go of her leg or his hand would get kicked stomped by her foot. Mordred then quickly stand up and swing her sword at him. Stop dodging. She shouted at John while their blade clashes. She then swing downward but John stop it halfway by elbowing her on the stomach and before she can react he grab one of her hand that had let go of her sword and use it to spin her around like they're waltz dancing. Come on Mordred. Let's dance. John felt a smile growing on his face and he then let go of her hand before he spun to her side and hit her with his sword. Fuck off. She then rolled on the ground and let out a smirk. How about you try this? Her body then to start to let out red electricity. Semblance. Really? Well, this is bad. Calm yourself down, John, and treat this like a dance. Yeah. This is no different than fighting Mordred like usual, just dance around her attacks. As easy as that. I then see her launch herself at me like she always does, so I take a few steps to her left because she usually attack from her right, but my eyes widen because she swing her body around and use it to swing her sword straight at me. I then bring up my sword and slide it against her until she passed me. She's changing her pattern. That's smart. I then close my eyes before I focus my aura on my leg. But so can I. I then launch myself at her and her eyes widen. You don't think I would rush, right? I shouted at her and SLM my sword downward at her. She used her sword to block my attack and her knees shakes before she smirk. This is bad, you forgot about this, John. She then used her semblance and launched electricity at me. My body start to locked up from the electricity coursing through my body. I forgot about her semblance. I never fought her with it before. I then close my eyes and focus my aura on my body to counteract her semblance. Dad can tank through this because of his aura, and if he can do it then I can too. She closed her eyes when my aura light up so bright that it become a flashback. I then kick her body and launched her away as soon as my body can move again. I then start to pant from the pain. That's cheating, Mordred. Contrary to my surprise, she also start to pant. You're the one cheating, John. Your attack hurt really bad, you know. It take chunks out of my aura. My eyes widen at her because I can feel that throughout the fight that my aura felt like it's at least 80% and I lost most of the missing 20% to counter her semblance. I then shake my head and focus on the fight. Well, if you're using aura then you can't blame me for using my reinforcement, right? She then glare at me. Don't you fucking dare hold back on me, John. She then launch herself at me again, but this time her sword is filled with red electricity as his semblance is coursing through it like there's no tomorrow. I then close my eyes and recreate the process to make the circuits and use it on my whole body and my sword. When I open my eyes, both my body and sword is filled with as little as reinforcement as I can do while maintaining the reinforcement. I then look at her and see her moving much slower than before because of my reinforced body. It's just like with the Grim. But with less of an effect, she's still really fast. I then launched myself at her and intercept her sword with mine as we meet in the middle. With a small explosion both of our sword clashed and it looks like it's a stalemate, but suddenly mine cut through hers before it hit her chest. Her aura is working overtime trying to protect her as much as possible, but my attack launched her to the cave's wall. The impact on the cave's wall break her aura after the abuse it went through. Mordred. I throw my sword to the side and stop using my aura reinforcement while I run to her. Are you okay? I slide next to her and grab her body and sit her up. She weakly slapped my hand away and let out a chuckle. Fuck off, John. I ain't a bitch. I let out a sigh. How bad is it? She then let out a groan and hold her chest. At best, a couple of bruises. At worst, some bruised ribs. Definitely some bruises on my back. Shit, you hit hard. I'm sorry, Mordred. She then cut me off. Shut the fuck up and stop saying sorry, John. I told you that you can use that reinforcement aura thingy. She then let out a human and tried to stand up. Help me up, fuck face. I stashed a medkit behind the weapons rack. I nodded at her and swing her arm over my shoulder and guide her to where she put our weapons at. Here, let me do it for you. I then gently set her down before I quickly grab the medkit and open it. Stop putting on that sorry-ass face. It's a fight. Of course one of us will get hurt. She shouted at me and pulled up her shirt. I winced when I see the bruises. But I shouldn't have gone that far. I then grabbed the bruise cream and opened it before I gently put the cream on her bruised chest. If you didn't go this far I would get mad, John. You think I want an easy fight? Fuck off with that bullshit. She then winced when I put too much pressure on the bruise, but other than that she is taking it like a pro. And next time I don't want you to hold back because of this, okay? I don't want any pity win. She scowled at me, but all I can do is chuckle and nod at her. Okay. Okay. And I want more bacon tomorrow. Okay. And a foot massage. Yes, Mordred. We then both start to giggle. Thank you. Mordred. Really? For everything. She then scoff and look away. No need to thank me, dumbass. I'm doing this just because I'm bored and you look like a hurt puppy. Okay. I completely believe you. I don't believe her at all, but even then, I still love her for all that she had done for me. She doesn't have to train with me, but she did. She doesn't have to go out of her way to lie to the others for me, but she did. I really can't ask for a better sister other than her. POV, this feeling. It's the same as him. As my knight in shining armor. As my only love. My king. Chapter 15. Third person POV, shit, it really hurts, Mordred thinks to herself while John spreads the cream on her bruises. She then winced when he pressed his fingers a little too hard on the bruises. She wanted to complain, but there's no way she is going to look weak in front of him. It's bad enough that she lost the fight pretty fucking spectacularly against a kid that only fighting experience with aura was with a single Grim. She had killed plenty of Grim before whenever went with her dad to go on a hunting trip. It usually surprised the rest of the family whenever she even agreed to join her father, but sometimes she had to know when it's time to fight with her dad or when it's time to reel in her anger so she can accumulate more experience for her future as a huntress. I'm sorry, Mordred. John told her as he get behind her and start to apply the cream on her bruises on her back from being launched into the cave walls so hard that she broke her aura. This kid. Didn't I told him to stop? Mordred thinks to herself. She then turned her head to him and glared at him. How many times do I have to tell you, John, it's a fucking fight. Of course there will be injuries. Even though she is mad at him for even pitying her, at least he cared, cause she knows that if it were any other kid, for example one of her classmates that had beaten her, they would fucking gloat about it and would not even think to help her patch up. Okay. John let out a sigh and finished applying the cream on her back. There. I'm done. Is there anywhere that hurts? She can feel her ribs throbs in pain because she may had lied about the extent of her injuries from John. She know what a bruised ribs feels like, and this ain't it. This is at the very least some crack ribs, especially on her left side. How the fuck does John manage to fake being healthy for 2 weeks is beyond her, because right now all she wants to do is lay down on a bed and just sleep with only some cracked ribs, let alone broken ribs and a broken arm, including God knows whatever happened to his muscles. She shivered as she remembered the feeling on her fingers when she poked John's ribs to check it a couple of weeks ago. Nah, there's no more injuries. Mildred lied to him before she then tried to stand up, but her legs buckled from her own weight. She would have fall face first on the ground if not for John catching her. Fuck off. I can stand on my own. She then grabbed John's shoulder and to try and use it to pull herself up on her feet. Look. No need to worry about me. I'm more worried about you. How does it feel fighting with Aura for the first time? That time with the Grimm doesn't count because I said so. She smirked at him before her smirks fell as she looked at the ground and think of how weak she looks right now. And I'm sorry for giving you a good fight. I am. It's kinda shameful that I lost to you. I am a prodigy. My teachers said so. Dad and even Mom said so. Dad also told me that I was even better than Artoria when she was my age. She then see his eyes looked over her with worry and frankly more love than any of her family, because she knows how difficult she is and she doesn't blame the rest of her family to not make her their favorite. John then smiled at her with so much love that she could choke on it, and that alone only make it hurt more. Why would you be ashamed? You were incredible. His soft and loving voice reached her ears and she can feel her eyes start to wet. I'm not incredible, John. I lost badly. You didn't even try to beat me, did you? Don't lie to me. She tried to blink back her tears to make it go away, but it only made it worse. She knows that he held back because a split second before the final clash she saw a glimpse of his reinforcement and saw how dim the circuits was, and the small amount of circuits on him was because he held back. It was much different from the last time John showed her his reinforcement. Madrid. She cut him off with a shake of her head. Stop it, John. Just say it. I'm weak, aren't I? Bet you are disappointed at me, right? How am I supposed to protect you if I'm this weak, John? I was supposed to be the one that protect you. I am older. More trained. I'm your big sister. I was supposed to be the one you can lean on. Not whatever the fuck this is. Madrid shouted at John as she let go of him, only for her to fall on the ground while holding herself back from outright bawling her eyes out. Her body starts to shake before her eyes widen when she felt a palm on her hair. She then looked up and see John smiled at her before he crouched and hold her face. Don't say that about yourself, Mordred. You are the best sister I could have ever asked for. You think Artoria would let me train myself? Would Saffron cover for me whenever I'm gone for too long? Would Jean teach me about Aura? Hell. Would any of them help me hide my injuries? No. But you did, Mordred. You did all of that and more. Not because you don't care about me, Mord. But because you did all of that because you love me too much to not let me achieve my dream. And for that you are the best big sister for me, Mordred. On my honor as an arc I speak truly. Mordred stayed silent for a few seconds before a drop of tear run down her face. And another. Another. And more tears starts to run down from her face until she start to sob and cried. He said it. On his honor as an arc. I can't believe he said it, she cried even harder. She then felt John wrapped his arms around her gently and rest her chin on his shoulder. Shush. Shush. Let it all out, Mordred. It's all right. I'm here. Just let it all out, he whispered lovingly into her ears, and she buried his face on his shoulder. John. Do you know how worried I was when you came back that night? You looked like you were about to die. I was so scared, John. So scared. I don't want you to die, John. I was supposed to be with you that night. Mordred shouted at him while she bawls her eyes out at the damage inside of her heart finally break. John started to rub her back to calm her down. You didn't know Mordred. It's not your fault. I would never blame you for it, Mordred. I don't care that I don't know John. I'm your big sister. I should had known. I'm the worst. She then bite John's shoulder and start to pummel her fist on John's chest, not noticing that John had actively turned off his aura so she doesn't hurt herself. You're not the worst, Mordred. Never was. And never will be. He then winced as Mordred's teeth break through skin. Mordred bite harder and felt the metallic taste of John's blood on her tongue. What? She then pull her head away from John and see that the left top side of John's shirt is wet with blood. John. Why? John continued to look at her with that eyes so full of love that she wonders if he could ever look someone with hate. Why? I don't want you to get hurt, Mordred. But he cut her off by shaking his head. No buts. I would rather it be me that get hurt rather than you, Mordred. You're maybe my big sister, but I'm also your little brother. I won't let you hurt yourself. He speaks to her so softly that his words only break his heart. Her eyes widen before she start to sniffles and rub her eyes with the back of her arm. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry. She heard John sighs before she feels his arms wrapped around her again. Come on. Don't cry. Don't you want to train with me today? I plan to experiment with my aura later. But I can't do it without you, Mordred. So don't cry for me, okay? She nodded at him and wiped her face by rubbing her face on his shirt before she looked at him with her eyes red from crying. Okay. But I expect you to show me something exciting, okay? If not, well, I guess you'll disappoint me. She tried to give as much bravado as she can, but it even sounded too fake in her own ears because she knows that she had looked weak in front of her little brother. Don't worry, Mordred. There's no way I would disappoint the great Mordred Arc, cause if I do, we both know that you'll beat me up. You betcha. Chapter 16. The sun is shining, the clouds are white and fluffy, and school are boring as fuck. That was what Mordred thinks to herself as she look out of the window and try her best to ignore whatever in hell the teacher is talking about. There's better use to my time than being here. I can beat all of my classmates here and even most of the upper years. Why can't I skip grade? Artoria skipped her last year here and she then goes straight to the Atlas Academy. She really had to go to the most boring and uptight academy out of all of the academies, doesn't she? Atlas Academy. It doesn't even have a sick name like the rest of the academy. Even Shade Academy in Vacuo, as run down as it is, got a better name than Atlas. Who the fuck named their academy with the same name as the place it's at? That's fucking boring. And I'm kinda bored without Artoria here to fight with. She then let out a tired sigh, and before she noticed her teacher start to cough to get her attention. Would you mind telling us what's on your mind, Miss Ark? Her teacher, Mrs. Cass, a short black-haired woman with an athletic build that doesn't match her age, asked her with a certain look on her eyes that remind Mordred of her mother when she starts to get mad at her for starting another fight, be it at school or at home. Nothing. I'm just confused, but why are we learning about the Grim Wall anyway? We already learned about it on our first year. It's basically pointless. We could have learned about more important thing like aura control. If not for Cassie being a 45 years old veteran huntress, Mordred would have spit out more fire, but sadly, Mordred have some respect for the old retired huntress. And why would it be pointless, Ms. Ark? As all of you know by now, and I expect all of you to know, Remnant are isolated by the Grim Wall for as long as we know. None of us know about what it actually is, but we very well know that dark wall that pours out black shadows the same as the Grimm's fur are dangerous. Did any of you students seen the news the other day? The retired huntress looked at her students and one of them raised their hand. Yes, Mr. Wood. She told the brown-haired boy, and he then answers her. Wood. Never knew that was his name. A stupid name. Mordred thought to herself because she never really did care to remember her classmate's name. She a bad girl like that, you know? A straight-up delinquent. The latest expedition crew from the joint effort of Atlas and Vale had come back with only 3 people out. Its 30 hunters and 150 soldiers that board the ship had came back alive. The rest had been killed by something in the wall when they were inside of it. Wood answered Mrs. Cass with a proud look on his face for fucking watching the news. Well, unlike him, Mordred had more important things to do, like training with John. Not something, Mr. Wood. But somethings. It would take more than a single thing to kill that much people alongside maiming the warship that they board. She then looked at Mordred. So tell me, Ms. Ark, is the subject of the grim wall pointless? Mordred looks away before she scoffs. Well, they just suck then. If I were there, I would have killed all of the Grims. Her words make her classmates looks at her pointedly with annoyance and envy at her prodigious skills compared to them. Suck to be them, cause unlike Mordred they're just fucking average. What? Y'all wanna fight? I'll beat all of your asses. She stands up from her seat and slammed her hands on the table. I'll beat all of your dumb sitting asses. She challenged her classmates, and props to her. Whenever they fought, she always won the fight, no matter how many of them had ganged up on her. And from what John had told her months ago when she complained about not being able to skip grades, was that the reason she can't do it is because of her suspension and frankly many detention from school. All Mrs. Cass can do is let out a tired and shake her head at the usual sight of Mordred trying to start another fight. Ms. Ark, calm down, or do you want to get another detention? Mordred glared at her before she sit down and look away. Mrs. Cass then decided to change subject into aura now. Do any of you know about why we don't unlock everyone's aura? She asked her students again, but before any of them can answer her, Mordred answered her questions first. It's because if a person unlocked their aura, Grims will target them more, because to them an aura unlocked person is a fucking beacon, yada yada yada. Can we do something else? How about combat class? It's much more important than this, considering that this is our second to last year of combat school. Mordred grumbled to the retired huntress because goddamn, she rather spent her entire day getting her ass beat by John rather than listen to this boring shit. Mrs. Cass gave her a pointed look before she asked her, while ignoring her question. And why would the Grims focus on an aura unlocked person rather than a normal civilian, Ms. Ark? Mordred frowned at her teacher because does the old huntress thinks that she doesn't listen to shit at the lessons? Well, she actually doesn't listen to shit, and more than 90% of her knowledge about anything not related to fighting come from John. Because unlike her, John actually care about school. The poor guy is a fucking nerd with how much he studied her school books, more time than she ever read it. For the past couple of years John practically tutored her in assassemics. He a smart boy like that, but even then she knows basic knowledge like this. It's because aura is the manifestation of our soul, and we basically let out our soul out in the open with how it basically becoming our own personal force field. The Grim basically love eating our souls. It's obvious why they target people with aura more and focused on them. She let out a smug look on her face because she knows that Mrs. Cass doesn't expect her to answer with this much details. Mordred then think of how John would explain this shit and thinks that her little brother would give out a much more detailed answer, with him being a freaky aura prodigy. Hell, she won't be surprised if John knows more about aura than any of the nerdy scientists in Atlas. John would probably explain about how the Grim have no souls or some shit, and that's why the Grim target a person with aura more, because they want their souls. That is correct, Ms. Ark. That's good. I hope you're always like this. It would do good for your grades. Not that you're failing. From what I remembered, you placed second on the last semester, right? Mrs. Cass asked Mordred. Hey, the only reason I didn't rank first was because I forgot to rank my name and date. She had endured much to get that grade. She shivered as she remembered on the long sleepless nights that John had tutored her about the subjects for her exams. Even when they are sparring, John would ask her questions after questions, and if she got it wrong he would hit her with each wrong answers. John could be scary if it's about her future academics. She knows why he is strict with her when it comes to her academics knowledge, but it's not like she needs fucking algebra to kill a Grimm. She wants to be a huntress for fuck's sake, not a fucking doctor. Mordred guessed that if not for Saffron being too busy with applying for medical school, she would have drilled her more about her school subjects so Mordred doesn't fail her exams. Sometimes she is a little worried about Saffron with how she always have eyes bags under her eyes, but hey, it's the price for becoming a doctor. And if she somehow doesn't get into med school, God knows that Mordred would do nothing illegal. Illegal in Mordred's eyes. It's fair to say that she would commit arson on an unspecified place of learning if that were to happen. As Mrs. Cass starts to talk about more and more boring shit, Mordred sighs and can't wait for school to be over because there's no combat class today. Mordred is itching for a fight. Wonder if John is down for a fight? Hell, what the fuck am I saying, he is always down to fight. He probably already finished his civilian school right now and is waiting for me at the cave. She'd look at the clock onto the whiteboard and read it. It's 14:45. John get out of school at 1400 hours while I get out of school at 1500 hours. Just 15 more minutes, Mordred. You can handle this. There's nothing that the great Mordred Ark can't handle. 20 seconds had passed before she slammed her head on the table. I can't handle this. After a grueling 15 minutes she had finally finished her last class of the day and is now running in the woods. Free de dudum. I'm finally free. She yelled while she ran through the forest. The great Mordred Ark is free. No more school today. No more stupid classes. Isn't that right, Pipsqueak? She grabbed a squirrel and it squeaked. It continued to squeak before she let it go. Fucking squirrel. You lucky I'm not hungry right now or I would had cook you right now. She then scoffed before she continues to jog through the forest for a while until she reached the waterfall. Well, hope he's here, cause if not it would meant that I had wasted my time coming here rather than going back home and meeting him there. She talked to herself before she jumped through the heavy waterfall and straight into the cave behind the water. She lands inside the cave perfectly with how much practice she had jumping into it, and when she looked around she let out a smirk at the sight of her little brother sitting on the ground while his aura is flowing on his skin in a weird pattern. From what she remembered of what he had said to her years ago, this is some kind of training for aura control and how he would control his aura to flow on him in a weird pattern akin to the waves from the sea. With each wave of the aura he is controlling them one by one throughout his body. She doesn't know how it would help his control, but what the fuck does she know about aura control? After 3 years of trying to train her aura, the best she can do is focus her aura on one spot now, and even then it took almost all of her concentration to do that. Meanwhile, John wouldn't even need to concentrate to do more complicated aura control like what he is doing now. Speaking of the sea, she would like to go beach again. The last time they had been on a beach was last year on John's birthday. She had a feeling that the reason that he had asked to go on the beach was because he heard her talking about how nice it would be to go there a couple of weeks before his birthday. Her little brother is cute like that, okay? He wouldn't be her little brother if he isn't that caring. God knows how many heart he would break when he got older, because right now with how charming and caring he is. All of his female classmates is head over heels with him. Add his athletic physique onto of that from hunter's training, it's basically close to impossible for him to not charm his classmates. He's a fucking golden boy. Johnny boy. You been waiting for your awesome sister. She smirked and walked closer to John. John then opened his eyes and gave Heat a smile. That goddamn John's smile, she sometimes want to punch him because of his damn smile. I hadn't waited for a long time, Mordred. I only arrived here for only about 30 minutes now. I had helped Mr. Rock with unloading his ship. He told me that he would sail to Vacuo to drop off some stuff in about 2 months. He then stands up and walked to the weapons rack. Mr. Rock? Who the fuck is that? Mordred's eyebrows furrowed because she never knew anyone named Rock before. Orleans is a close-knitted group of people. Everyone here practically know each other. Mr. Rock, you know. The bald-jacked sailor as big as Dad? Oh. You're talking about Dwayne. Why are you even calling him Mr. Rock anyway? She let out a chuckle because of how fucking polite John is. It's another difference between him and her. Compared to her, he is a fucking saint. Well, his last name is Rock. That's why I called him Mr. Rock. He give her an exasperated look before he throw her a training sword and she catches it with one hand. You don't know his last name? He asked her. Fuck no. That name is as stupid as one of my classmates' last name, Wood. Who the fuck named their children Wood and Rock? She then walked over to a more open space of the cave. Well. You do know that my name, John, basically translate to yellow, right? He then put his sword to his side with one hand relaxedly, not even putting on a stance. Not that she is offended that he didn't even put on a stance, because since he had unlocked his aura, she had never won a single match. Shut the fuck up. Let's just start the fight, I'm fucking itching to beat you. And then with a smirk she launched herself at John with a big grin on her face. Chappie 17, third-person POV. With great speed Madrid launched herself at John with her sword high up above her head, intending to swing it down straight to him. This again. She always want to end the fight fast. John thought to himself as he take a step back and backhand her sword to the side with simple flick of his sword. Mordred grinned and used the momentum from John's sword to swing her whole body around midair and swing at him again, but this time is from her side. This is what I've been waiting for, John. You're too passive. John's eyes narrowed and dodges backwards again. This again, Mordred? Aren't you bored of doing that same thing? She frowned and launched herself at John again, but because of the closer proximity, she had come too close to him and now John is inside her guard. Shit! Boom! With an astounding sound, John launched an uppercut right into her guts. The combination from her own speed and John's fist connected to her guts made felt like throwing up her inside as her spittle out of her mouth and her body come to an abrupt stop on top of his fist. She felt that the blow take a chunk out of her aura, but she's not finished yet. She let out a grin and let go of one hand on her sword to grab John by his shoulder. This may not be her first plan, but she won't complain about this opportunity. Gotcha, fucker. John's eyes widened as Mordred's body glows red and electricity arcs across her body, electrocuting John with 1000 volts of electricity. This is bad. I can feel my aura depleting. John grit his teeth and tried to remove Mordred, but her grip on his shoulder is too tight. He can't even move his body because of her semblance anyway. I ain't letting you go, John. I ain't losing this time. Johnny boy. She shouted and upped her semblance, making 1500 volts of electricity coursed from her into John's while she grabbed his shoulder even tighter, even though she is still perched stomach first on his fist. John can feel his body start to spasm even more uncontrollably, but he need to concentrate on his aura to at least cover his left arm for his next move. John then focused his aura control, and with it covering his left arm making it glow brightly, he has slight control over it, but that's okay because that is all he need. With a shout he used his fist that is on her guts to launch her away from him. Aya ag. Mordred's eyes widened as she got launched hard by John. This kid. She then skid on the floor and come to an abrupt stop as her back hit the cave's wall. I got you to take this seriously, didn't I, John? She grinned at him with her while electricity continued to cloak her body like a suit of armor. If it were any other person to use this move, it would be stupid to do it for long period of times because of the severe aura drainage, but because of her blood as an arc and the absurd aura amount she got from it, she can use this comfortably for a few minutes before her aura get to red. Why don't you use that reinforcement of yours? You can't beat me without it now, John. I practiced this move in secret just for you, John. So use it now. She shouted at him with a hint of anger and excitement coating her voice. The reason why she wanted John to use his reinforcement is because of her feelings of inadequacy as a fighter. John had completely stopped using reinforcement for more than a year ago. Not even the lowest level of reinforcement. And he still beat her every time without it. Her pride as a fighter and big sister is at stake. She had to make John use it, or it only cement her feelings that she isn't enough for John. She need to be better for John. What kind of big sister want to fail her little brother? Her eyes widen in hope when she sees John stand still and take a deep breath. Maybe. Just maybe he will use it again. But her hope shattered when she sees John shakes his head. No, Mordred. If I used aura reinforcement, then it would be too easy. None of us will learn anything. John let out a sigh before he put on the fool's guard with both hands on his sword pointing downward. He knows how much she wanted him to take him seriously, but he can't. Not only would the fight be meaningless, he would actually hurt Mordred more because of the boost in strength. She knows that it will be too easy, but she can't accept it. How could she accept it? She refused to accept it. She knows she's strong, but compared to John she's not good enough. She refused to not be good enough. John then launched himself forward into Mordred. Mordred, seeing this, took this chance to take a revenge at John by upping her coat into 2000 volts to boost her speed even more. With both her body and sword coated with her semblance, she launched herself to meet John halfway with her sword pointed straight to him, lightning spear. Her body is now akin to a lightning streak with how fast it is compared to before. With her sword pointed straight towards him, this had practically turned her into a spear made out of lightning. I'll make you use it, John. That's an arc promise. John then concentrate his aura and channel his lowest level of aura reinforcement and slide his sword against hers, redirecting it to hit the air beside him as he moves closer to her. He had to use aura reinforcement because her speed now far outclass his without reinforcement. Her eyes widen at the use of the reinforcement, but she can't be happy for long because with her now outstretched arms missed John. He grab her arm and pull her closer and use it to spin his body around her and smack the pommel of his sword to the back of her head, making her smack face first into the ground. The ground explode with the impact of her head on the floor and her semblance disappear as she can feel that her aura is on the verge of breaking. She then used all of her remaining strength to pull her head out of the ground. John stopped using reinforcement and grabbed her by her shoulder. Are you okay, Mordred? Did you aura break? He feared that he had used too much strength because it's been a really long time since he used his reinforcement in a fight. Mordred gave him a wide grin. Made you use it, John. That's a win in my book. She may had lost the battle, but she win the war. And that make her want to cry because after more than a year, she finally managed to make him use it again. She had trained in secret from him for months now to use that special move. Finally, all of her hard work staying up until dawn bore fruits. Stop it, Mordred, you can't cry in front of him, not like last time. You can't look weak ever again. Even though she is trying her hardest to hide her feelings, John can see it clearly enough. Damn it, John. You made her sad. He then helped her up. You surprised me, Mordred, especially with grabbing my shoulder. I should expect it, but you took me by surprise. Mordred nodded at him. Of course you fell for it, fool. I call that move Thunder Cross sheer heart attack. She yelled out while making an X symbol with her arm. Yeah. Thunder Cross sheer heart attack, huh? That's a mouthful. He shakes his head and walked to pick up her sword. So Mordred, other than that, did you get any more progress on your aura training? He asked her while he walked to the weapons rack and stored their swords. She nodded at him. Yeah, here, look. She showed him her forearm and closes her eyes. After a few seconds her forearm started glowing. Look,